We will call the September 10th, 2024 Purchasing Committee to order. Carla, will you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Johnson?
Present.
Commissioner Phillips?
Here.
Commissioner P?
Here.
Commissioner Boyd?
Here.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Here.
Commissioner Gooch?
Here.
Chairman Carr?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vice Chairman P., have you had a chance to review the minutes of the previous meeting?
I have found them in order, make a motion for their approval.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second? Any objection to the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes stand approved. Thank you. Do we have anybody for public comments?
No, sir.
Nobody for public comments. All right, we're to item 5, gentlemen. That is, and we're taking something under advisement. It's the RFQ for the Rutherford County Transfer Station, the Landfill Road construction project, I guess. Mark, we handed that off to you. If you'll come to the table and give us your recommendation, please, sir. And what the reason for that recommendation.
The bids came in higher than expected because I believe we used full depth reclamation, which is a very, very good choice. However, there's not enough contractors around here that do that to make it competitive, and there's a lot of unsureties on their part, having not done it before. So what we recommend doing is rejecting all bids, repackaging the project, and rebidding it with some changes, eliminating the full depth reclamation and choosing areas that that we want to beef up the road section, and we're going to have a meeting to determine some options. One of the contractors that bid it gave me a list of items. He emailed me a list of items. It looks like there's about 7 items or so that we could use to bring the prices down. So that's what we plan on doing. There were a number of things that were very easy to do, and some of them will just be changing some pavement section and so forth. And we've contacted the geotech that recommended the full deck reclamation specifications, and asked them to consider a pavement section, or revising the pavement section. So that's what we plan on doing, and plan on rebidding it. So we recommend rejecting all bids.
Any questions for Mr. Lee on the recommendation?
I've just got a general question. Is this, and we've already maybe discussed this, but is this project more than what our county highway department could do?
That's a question for Mr. Lee. I would just say we have talked to Greg Brooks about that. So Mark, can you kind of share, I guess, a little bit about that?
That it is being considered. We met with Mr. Brooks, and that's something that he will have to think about a little bit more before he commits to it, because I mean he's got a budget too. So, and I know he did the Plainview School without budgeting for it, but he had some reserves that allowed him to do that. So that's something we'll discuss further with him.
What could the funding source for this project be used to?
I think it could. I think that's a question for Michael Smith, and he's not here. But we've had that preliminary conversation, and we believe there's a way for our funding source, which is the bond, to do that for Greg. I just want to make sure that if that is done and that is available, that it's done accurately and correctly. So that's part of what we're going to look at.
So we're looking at that?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because Greg has mentioned that if he can do it and he's got the expertise to do it, that he would be willing to seriously look at it. The one thing he did say, though, and I want to manage, because I didn't realize this, he cannot do the intersection because it's a state highway. He cannot have his county equipment in the state right-of-way. So we would have to, I think this is right, isn't it, Mark? We would
Yes.
have, that would be a bid that we would have to let out, and then 100 feet, 200 feet down landfill road, where he could then pick it up and then potentially finish it, or to some terminus point, right?
Correct. I think we'd want to consider how long we want that to be,
Yeah.
so that it would be enough for a contractor to want to bid on, rather than just the intersection itself.
And so your suggestion is to reject the bids and to rebid?
Yes.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion, we have a second from any further discussion?
So tell me again why it was such a good idea to go the other route?
The full deck reclamation?
Yes.
So what that does is it takes up all the material that's there, you mix Portland cement with it, and put some water with it, it firms it up almost like a rock. And so it creates a very good road base, and then you pave over top of that. And it's, like I said, it's like building a road over a rock. You don't have to worry about any failures in the subgrade. It's not possible to have failures when you've got concrete as your road base.
And Greg, and this was the kind of where we got, and because there's zero failures, it's somewhat over-engineered for the
It is.
utilization that it's going to be used for. I heard one contractor refer to it, it's so strong you could land a 747 on it. Well, we're not going to be landing 747s on it, so why are we over-engineering this? And then Mr. Brooks, and I want to make sure I'm saying this right, Mr. Gregg said, you know, if we had a 10 or 15% failure of the road within a 5-year period, we'd still come out way much better financially as opposed to the over-engineering of full depth reclamation. So, am I saying that right, Mark?
Yes, sir. And so we have used full deck reclamation in Rutherford County on a couple of areas. We used it on Ocala Road. If you'll recall, Ocala Road was built parallel to 840 for access purposes that had been cut off to properties. And it was not built with the best materials and workmanship, maybe. So the developer of South Haven subdivision was building so many lots out there. Mr. Brooks said, hey, something's got to be done with this road, and required that road, a good bit of it, to be rebuilt with full depth reclamation, and it's proved very well. I go out there regularly, and there's been another project or two in Rutherford County that's used it. It holds up extremely well.
Okay.
We have I'm sorry. Do you have any more questions?
I think the recommendation was to reject the bids. If I'm not mistaken, was there a motion
Where it was, and we have a second.
to reject the bids and to rebid?
Correct.
Is that the direction we want to go in, or should we reject the bids and start over and put a new RFP and then communicate that RFP before we rebid?
Well, we would have some redesigned features in the present layout. So I don't know that, I don't think we need to start over, because we've got plans. It's just a matter of the roadway section that we use to rebuild that road. I mean, we've got all the drawings, the vertical and horizontal curves laid out. We've got the specifications written. We just take out the portion of the full depth reclamation and consider our pavement section, and go from there.
I think what you're saying is the bid specs for the road are the same. It's the type of technology we're going to use to renovate the road, as opposed to full depth reclamation.
Yes.
We're talking about something else, but with the same set of plans, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Yes, and
So we would be rebidding it.
we would be rebidding it, unless the decision is made to go with the Rutherford County Highway Department.
Correct. And that would come back to the purchasing committee.
So
Yes,
you're going to
Commissioner.
use,
Yes, Commissioner.
well, you're going to use those suggestions that you had highlighted to formulate another bid?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll go ahead.
I would have been good with this yesterday, but something has come to light, and I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get into legal issues. But we've got seems like a big problem that everyone doesn't know about, and I can't vote to move forward on this until we get some people in gear and get that problem settled, which is due diligence that hasn't been done. The way I understand it, due diligence wasn't done, and that's no reflection on you. You didn't have anything to do with it. But I can't vote for this to move forward in any way unless somebody says something changed my mind before we vote. But I just can't go forward with it personally because of the knowledge of the problem that has existed for quite a while on this, but it hasn't been addressed, and it's not going away. So unless somebody says something that convinces me otherwise, my vote will be no.
Any other comments or questions?
But can we move forward at the same time that your concern is being addressed?
I don't think we can move forward with the bidding. Now, we could move forward with, and there again, is possibly money thrown away, because we don't know what the situation's gonna be, the outcome of what I'm speaking of, and I can't tell everything I know or heard about it publicly at this time, and I hope everybody understands that. But I feel like any money spent moving forward we're risking that just being thrown away.
So let's do this, if we could, Commissioner, out of respect to your concern. What if we reframe the motion to reject the bids, and then at the next appointed purchasing meeting, if your concerns have been addressed, Mark can still do the due diligence without necessarily the authority to rebid it. And so that would come at the next appropriate committee meeting, whenever that is, when a decision has been made. Can we do that?
Well, to clarify, I don't think it's due diligence on your part. It's other areas that have caused this problem or allowed this problem to not be addressed. And until it's addressed, I can't risk the money.
Exactly, and I'm trying to say the same thing. I'm saying we got one motion addressing two things. The motion was to reject the bids and then give Mark the authority to repackage it and rebid it. So that was two decisions in one motion. What I'm saying is split the decision into two, and so we'd have the motion to reject the bid because of the engineering concerns that led to an inflated cost. We could vote that motion, second it, and move that, and then we could address the concerns that you have at a later meeting, and if those are addressed, then we could move forward for rebidding at a later date, if appropriate.
I agree.
Can we do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Can I amend the motion?
please.
Just to reject the bids?
Yes.
And have Mark come back next week with the updated RFP, and we can proceed from there.
That's correct. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, excellent.
Is that next week or next month?
Next month.
Next meeting.
Next meeting, whenever that is.
Or
Or at the appropriate time.
yeah, 'cause we may want to go ahead and have a special call meeting.
Correct.
Which could be appropriate.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying the next meeting, whenever that next meeting is. So all we're voting on is the rejection of the bids tonight, for clarity. Do you have those in the minutes? That's the only thing. Yes, Mr. McAdoo.
I can see that happening, but he don't have to stop from talking to Greg, do we?
No,
Oh.
we're just not, no, it doesn't keep Mark from doing what he needs to do.
Okay.
It keeps us from giving him the authority to submit, or put out another bid
Put out
package or another RFP until we get an answer to your question.
Right.
Can you
That's what
have-
we're doing.
Can you have that information from Greg at the next meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Any further discussion? Seeing none, call the roll.
Yes, sir.
Voting on the amendment.
Voting on the amendment. Thank you, Commissioner. The amended motion. Mark, don't go anywhere.
Sneaking off.
Still interested.
He said, I'm out of here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips.
Yes.
Commissioner Pete,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo,
Yes.
Commissioner Gates,
Yes.
Chairman Carr.
Yes,
Thank y'all.
thank you. Next item is item 6, new business.
Before we leave
Yes,
the
sir.
road, Mark, I just wanted, I didn't want to confuse it with the discussion, but the timing of completing the construction or reconstruction of that road and opening of our transfer station, what's that timing? If the road is not complete by next fall, can we open that transfer station until next fall, until the road is completed?
So that's something that we've talked about in designing the road, is keeping one lane of traffic open. That's important to do, unless we move some features of the services provided temporarily to another location until the road is finished, so that we can work on 2 lanes of road side by side rather than just one and then come back and do the other. So, does that answer your question?
Let me summarize. So the answer is no, we can't open that transfer station until there is some work done on the road to handle that heavy traffic.
That's something that I think we'll need to work out with Mr. Brooks, because we have tried to come up with a plan that keeps one lane open, and it's difficult unless the contractor chooses to do the construction in a different way. I talked to one contractor who said, well, we could do 100 foot at a time on each one and then transfer the traffic over, which would be a real pain. And then another option was we could work at night, and I think that, I don't know, maybe that's worth considering. There's options.
Will the transfer station be ready before the road's ready?
Probably.
Thanks.
Any further questions? Now we'll move on to item 6, new business. We have 2 RFQs. Sorry, Michael, we're gonna take them out of order, if that's okay. We're gonna do your off-site utility work. Carla?
We received no bids.
Okay. Mark, can you tell us where we go from here? We did not receive any bids for the utility work.
Okay. I spoke with 2 contractors. 4 have picked up plans, and one of them told us a few weeks ago that their workload was such that they had been very helpful in this project, but they told us they were extremely loaded and with work, and they couldn't take on more work. So we were disappointed with that. The other one I spoke with yesterday, he called me and said, I just want to give you a heads up. We don't feel comfortable bidding it just exactly the way it is. And I said, well, if the bids come in high, which I didn't expect that nobody was going to turn in bids, but I said, if the bids come in high, would you be willing to help us formulate the project in such a way that you could, that you would feel comfortable bidding it? He said, yes. And so what it is, we had specified jack and bore go under the river, and that requires digging pits. And digging a pit on a hillside and getting as deep as you need to be, which you would have to be below the river elevation, it gets somewhat dangerous if there's a failure and the water surges into the pit and you've got people in there and you've got equipment in there. So we talked with a couple of, 3 contractors that their recommendation is to do directional drilling. And you don't get the same product. It's difficult to use a steel encasement because steel doesn't bend as well as some other products that would be very dependable. Like high density polyethylene pipe, it's a very thick wall. You can get a very thick wall. And you would directional drill under the river, come back up on the other side, and then you pull your pipe through. And there were several of them that recommended that. So that's the way we plan on restructuring the bid, and others said that they would definitely be interested in doing that. But with jack and bore, it's very difficult to do. And So that's what we are discussing. That's where plans are now, to rebid it with directional drilling where you don't have people that are down in a pit, so.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I got one question. I understand that, but have you talked to Middle Tennessee Electric? Have you coordinated with their engineers, or are they aware of this project of
No, sir.
drilling underneath?
So, if I may, the utility is for water and sewer only.
I thought it was for electrical.
No,
No, sir. It's water and sewer. And we had posed this in advance, well in advance, to Murfreesboro Water Resources Department. Because that's the way we wanted to go after talking with several contractors. We didn't hear back from them until like days before the bid, and it was too late to change anything. They're okay with it, but we needed to hear that before we changed our bid, our design.
So Murfreesboro Water Department is not saying anything?
No, they are now. They say that they're okay with it now, but for a while they didn't. And I think there's some changes going on there, so, I mean, I don't want to give them a bad rap on it, so
So, Murfreesboro Water and Sewer is okay with the directional boring?
they are.
That's
Yes.
that's a huge piece of information. Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions for Mark? Thank you, Mark. All right, now, Michael Gregory, RFQ for Paws Drug and Medical Supplies, please. New business. No. Matter of fact, it's going up.
So we received 2 bids in.
Carla, you mind holding those bids up? I want to look at them.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
So the first one is from Midwest Veterinary Supply. And the second bid came from MWI Veterinary Supply. There you go.
You want to explain these for us, Michael? What we're doing
Yes,
and
sir.
why we're doing it?
Every year we bid out our drugs and medical supplies. These are going to be the items that we use for our surgeries and for medications within the shelter.
I'll need to take these bids back. I would ask that you would take them under advisement so that I can go back and prepare the spreadsheet that I typically do and bring back with a recommendation at the next meeting. Typically, there are, I need to make sure that everybody bid the same quantities and those type things and break that information down to give you accurate numbers.
How long will that take you?
Typically, I can have it done in less than a week.
Okay, that should be fine. Oh, are either one of these bidders our current supplier?
The one from Midwest, they are, MWI did not bid last year because they got theirs in too late. So we've worked with them in the past. One of our current bidders, Covetrus, didn't return a bid.
Okay.
But we did send things out to 7 or 8 different organizations, and typically about 2 is what we get back.
So there's one of those situations where we could have multiple vendors as far as based on the cost,
Yes, sir.
particular line items.
We could, and when I bring back that spreadsheet, I typically highlight in green which vendor I recommend. If they're both the same, we'll put both down. That way, if I'm ordering another product and there's a minimum shipping and those type things, I'll tack that on that for to save
So
cost.
it's barely possible you might recommend something from each one of these bidders, correct?
Yes, sir. We break it down by line item.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Your recommendation is to take it under advisement.
If you would, please, sir.
So moved,
We
Mr.
have
Chairman.
we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Boyd. Any further discussion or questions?
You got yours.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Right. Excellent. All right, now we're to item 7, which is the RFP for the loading, hauling, and disposal of the waste transfer station and the waste management contract. There have been some invitations issued, and I've kind of, in order to kind of move this thing along a little bit so we don't choose unless there's objection, so we don't choose our cabbage twice here. I've kind of broken this down to 5 parts, if that's okay, just to help me to stay organized. Ms. Caldwell was invited by Commissioner Gooch as a consultant, and I'll turn that over to you in just a second, Trey, if that's okay. And then I thought that we would have Waste Management come up and discuss the contract, and then we could just ask them about the contract for any questions that have come up subsequent to that. And then we've had several independent haulers contact the county that I've reached out to, as well as Bishop, to say, hey, can you kind of give us a better understanding of your business model and to what extent, if any, a transfer station would affect that or not affect that. And then I've got Commissioner Piercy who wants to address the committee, and then we'll have any discussion. So unless there's any objection, that's kind of the order of things. So if without objection, we'll go out of session and we'll recognize Ms. Caldwell. Trey, would you mind introducing Ms. Caldwell
Well,
and the history there?
most of us know Becky Caldwell. She's been working with us for quite some time, but I felt like that she may have some resources or some material, just like you may have a presentation, that could clarify things for us. Quite a few commissioners have asked quite a different things, and so this would give us an opportunity to maybe clarify, get some more information, and would like to also invite participation from any commissioners in the audience that may have questions based on her presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Caldwell?
So, for those of you all that don't know me, I'm Becky Caldwell. I've been in and around the waste and recycling industry for nearly 30 years. Basically, I want to start by thanking Commissioner Gooch for inviting me. I worked with Rutherford County quite a bit when you all very first started what I'm going to call the adventure. This could be a wicked problem, it could be a journey, but I decided to call it an adventure because typically that's when you have something that has risk involved in it, but it's also an adventure. It's a lot of fun. It can be a lot of moving parts. I don't think you all are having fun with this anymore. I want to make it very clear because I've already been asked and I expect this will come up. Nobody is paying me to be here tonight. I do not work for Republic Services. I do not work for WM. Neither one of those companies have ever paid me a penny for anything. And I have asked that Rutherford County not pay me tonight because I want to be here as the most objective and the most open-minded person you got to be able to say, hey, I'm here to answer your questions. I'm here to help you serve your constituents and the community. I want to start with just a quick timeline. I don't know if y'all realize this has been an 8.5-year adventure. I know there have been some things that have happened along the way that people aren't real happy about, and people are unhappy about this or happy about that. And what I really want to do is give you a foundation of facts to let you know kind of where you've been, where you're going, possibly where you're going. Back in April of 2016, GBB came along. I don't know if all of you all have heard of them, but they were a consulting company. They came to town. They planned to work with Rutherford County, City of Murfreesboro. They developed a solid waste strategic plan. Basically, that's what resulted from that was your Middle Point 2.0. And then in 2018 was when I actually started attending many of your all's meetings, county commission meetings, public works meetings, and other meetings along the way when I was a representative for the Greater Nashville Regional Council. And that's a council of 13 counties and 52 cities for Middle Tennessee. So most of the Middle Tennessee counties that are north of what you're further south, Rutherford's further south. During that time, we put together a request for information that was probably one of the broadest documents I've ever written in my career. Basically, it said, hey, we want to look at what the options are. We want to see what's out there. We want to see what other people have for an idea of what we could do. We got some really good feedback. We got some really different ideas. We got a few people that came in and said, hey, we want to do this, we want to do that. Good ideas. And then we had COVID. And in October of 2020, I created Caldwell Environmental Solutions. Funding was cut back with GNRC, and I had projects that I really wanted to finish. And so that's when I came back in February 21, and we worked on a request for proposals. And that's when we said, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to know who would be interested in building a transfer station, who would be interested in hauling garbage, who would be interested in helping with recycling. What does that look like? And then most recently, you all have done a request for proposals for hauling and disposal. And I go through that timeline to say this has truly been a lot of effort from a lot of people, a lot of time and money spent. You all know that, but I just wanted to put this in order because there's been a lot of things that happened in between. I think this is going to be the slide you're most interested in. There's a lot of information on it. One of the questions, and so that you know where my questions came from, I've watched several of I had the Marathon Rutherford County meeting for a couple of days. I watched a lot of your meetings, several of them, and I just kind of noted the questions that were asked. I'm not giving these questions to any one person. I'm just trying to address them in general. So I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not pointing out anyone. I'm just going to address them in general. So basically, how many Class 1 landfills are there in Middle Tennessee? Well, you're looking at them on the page. There are 10.
Becky, how old are these things? How long have they been around?
It depends. The last new landfill that was permitted in Tennessee, I think, was in the early 2000s. So most of them have been around for a while. And some of them have changed ownership, similar to BFI, then became Allied, then became Republic. So y'all have kind of seen that here. WM recently acquired White County, so those things have happened. Along the path, we did have Decatur landfill that was an option. It's no longer an option. They've closed that facility, so that was one that quickly came off the list. But if you look at this one slide, you'll see, number one, where they're located, who owns and operates each of these facilities or each of these landfills. And then you'll also see what the current lifespan is for each landfill. Now, I put this on there and I want to be clear where that information came from. That information came from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, and I want to double check the date. Yeah, 2023. So every year they put out an annual engineering report. This is each landfill, this is how much space they have, and at the very end it says this is how much life they have or life expectancy they have. A lot of that is based on information they're provided from the owner and or operator of the facility, and a lot of that is information that's based on current volume. what they actually take in on any given day.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
So looking at you got the mileage and the years left available, or time left available, is that right? So like White County landfill, it says 57 miles, 1 year and 2 months. Is that the time that TDEC has determined,
Yes.
the airspace they have left available?
For 2023, yes, sir.
Okay.
And that mileage is actually from the transfer station address or your current landfill address.
Thank you.
And if I may, I'm only seeing one that has more than 19 years. Am I correct on that? In other words, you got Bradley County with 19 years left
In the city of
in
Chattanooga.
the state of Chattanooga. So there's only 2 that has 19 or plus years.
And West Camden has 19.
Okay,
So the three, two with 19 years left and then one with 50 plus.
are there any, or do you know if there's any applications for permits for Middle Tennessee the next?
There are
Okay.
none out there right now. What I'll tell you is if someone comes into TDEC with the right information, the right application, the right documentation, the right testing, and they go through the regional board and their regional board supports it, then that would potentially be on TDEC's desk. That's not to say it couldn't happen, but it hasn't happened again. I think the last one, I should have checked, but I think the last one was permitted in the early 2000s.
How long does it take to permit and get greenfield operation typically? Because there is nothing currently on the radar to get permitted, right?
There is not.
So if there was a greenfield somewhere, 200 acres somewhere, how long from the time?
If you're talking about actually opening the gate to accept vehicles, I would
Correct.
tell you it's probably 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
And that's probably a little bit low.
Okay.
Because you've got all of the things and, all of the steps to getting
Okay.
to the gate. Looking at this map, you'll see obviously Middle Point is closest to you, but you've got locations that are anywhere from 40, I think 46 was the lowest. Yeah, 46 is the closest, which would be Smith County. When you look at that and you think about the direction or the way you have to get there, that's a trek. And this is one way. This is not a round trip. This is not round trip mileage. White County is 57 miles. Cedar Ridge is 62 miles. 100 miles is going to be about your sweet spot. The best, and when you're actually hauling garbage, and I actually when I worked at the city of Franklin, I worked there for 18 years, and most all of those were in some way, shape, or form affiliated with the solid waste department. We built a new transfer station there. I will tell you that it's not the most professional and it's not the most confident comment, but if you build it, they will come. And I wasn't sure about that when it happened, but in 2004 when we opened the gate, boy, did they ever come. People showed up. We didn't expect them to be there. It was interesting. We sent out billing first month. We had a couple of voicemails, and we were mindful to say, hey, what's the problem, or is there a question, or we wanted to make sure all the things we'd put into place were working. And a gentleman called and said, hey, I want to call about my $3,000 bill. Okay. So we call him back, fully expecting, this is really high, I want to know what the problem is. And he said, my bill was actually, and it was closer to $6,000 for the month. That was his disposal bill for the month through our transfer station. He said, it's actually $3,000 more than I normally would spend on disposal. But guess what? I normally would spend $5,000 on a tire truck and repairs and maintenance and wreckers and such. And so and fuel, thank you. And I saved $2,000. So thank you for saving me $2,000 last month. And of course we were thinking, oh gosh, what can we do to remedy this? We posted the tip fee, and we really wanted to serve the public because that was what we were there for. And I watched that station go from an open field to a transfer station that it is today. So I will say that I was surprised. Even though there's a contract in place, it doesn't mean, terrible example, but I'll give it. Right now, you all take your waste into Middle Point landfill for no tip fee. It's free. When I tell people that, they go, "What?" It really does still happen. But if you chose to haul your garbage to California, there's nobody stopping you now. That's going to be really expensive. It's not going to make a lot of sense. But if you chose to do that, then that's your choice. I mean, you have a choice regardless of whether you have a contract in place or not. Private haulers will, especially small companies, they appreciate the time spent in and out. They appreciate typically the distance from the main road into a transfer station is not necessarily as long as it would be into the landfill at the face. Again, that's fuel and time. And time is money in this business. Time is money in any business. I will tell you, back to Commissioner Gooch's question, are there any landfills slated to be permitted by TDEC in the next 5 to 10 years? Metro Nashville takes their solid waste to Republic Services Transfer Station at 1160 Freightliner Drive in Nashville. Republic chooses to transfer that waste to the Middle Point landfill here in Rutherford County. Metro Nashville generated 1,128,635 tons of municipal solid waste in 2022. And I'm using the latest numbers that have been verified from TDEC. Of that total, 397,155 tons were delivered to Middle Point landfill. And so, in listening to the meetings and the comments that you all have had from lots of different people, Republic Services does anticipate closure without expansion July 1 of 2027. And Metro Nashville's contract with Republic Services is through fiscal year 2027, which would be June 30th of 2027. So they have that; those two things are side by side.
I do believe, though, that Republic has revised their estimate to mid-2028 based on the dialing back of out-of-county waste a little bit. Is that correct?
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. While they're still bringing the majority of the MSW out of Davidson County, they've dialed back some other areas to extend that lifespan. So I think they are saying they have revised their closure back to 2028, if I'm not mistaken.
And if you look here, 2023, they said 6 years and 5 months.
Yeah.
So it's really based on how much you bring in, how much space you have, and it's truly an airspace balance economics.
I think they can
equation.
turn that up, and like any landfill, they can turn it up or dial it back based on what they think their business model requires.
They said they actually.
I'm sorry?
They stopped taking Metro's trash quite a while ago.
They have not. They have not stopped taking Metro trash, no, sir.
I'm just saying that's what they said.
I understand. Every atomic trailer that you see is coming out of the Nashville transfer station. Most every atomic trailer.
Are any of the, like for example, Ray County?
Mm-hmm.
Ray County owns it.
Yes.
Well, they only got like a year, but are there any county-owned landfills that are only restricting to their people?
Yes. So Williamson County restricts only to waste generated. Those aren't up there.
But they're not, okay.
It's a C&D. So I'll use Williamson County in a couple of ways. Williamson County has a construction and demolition landfill like you all used to have, and then they have a transfer station where they transfer MSW out to West Camden, I'm pretty sure. So their component for MSW is a transfer station, just like what you all would have when construction's finished. Dixon County does the same thing. Sumner County, they actually have an authority that operates their solid waste recycling functions, and they do the same thing. So they, right now, Sumner County is depending on Resource Authority of Sumner County to move all of their waste, and it's going to Smith County. And basically they own the transfer station as an authority, or as a county entity. government entity, and then they have a third party that operates the transfer station, hauls the waste, and then goes to Smith County. So in this whole scenario, I'll tell you, there are three combinations, and you have it in the contract that you've looked at, but three combinations are, once you collect it, you gotta do something with it. So you've got a pile of trash, what are you gonna do with it? Well, you could potentially, and I'm not gonna recommend this at all, but you could potentially buy road tractor and trailers and hire people and haul it yourself. I was in that business at the city of Franklin, and that is not a business for government. There's a whole lot of unknowns that affect your budget in ways you'd never imagine. Then you've got a group that would actually, so that's your transportation piece. Then you've got the group that's actually going to accept it and dispose of it at a landfill, which is your final destination. And you've got this piece in the middle that is operating the transfer station. So whether that's county employees, whether that's a third party, whether that, so there are three. You can have one contract for all three. You can have three contracts. Makes sense to have one, typically two at the most, because typically you're going to want your transportation company to actually load their trailers or their transportation equipment. It's a rail or a barge. And you also just type out questions if you have them. I'm going to just slowly go through the list here. So one of the questions that had come up, what happens to the Middle Tennessee solid waste market when Middle Point landfill reaches capacity and stops accepting waste? In calendar year 2022, Middle Point landfill accepted 1,025,201 tons of material that was buried in the landfill. That came from 30 different counties across the state. Now, I want to be very clear about this because you'll see people in the media that say, oh, there were 35 counties that used Middle Point landfill. Okay, great, they did, but sometimes it's only 2 or 3 times. It depends on what it is. It depends on who's hauling it. It depends on what their route is. I mean, it's open for business. So some of those, and I have the list. Some of them are Bedford County, Marshall County, Lincoln County, DeKalb County. There's a whole list of counties that use that facility. So basically what happens when they say we aren't going to accept waste anymore, that's 1 million tons, give or take, a little bit more, but 1 million tons of material that has to go somewhere. And if it stops moving, then obviously it piles up, and obviously there's a threat to the sanitation of your community and the quality of life. That was, years past in the Industrial Revolution. I don't want to give you a history lesson, but we started making things that were expendable. So that's when we said, hey, we got to keep the community sanitation, important, up to date. And that's when people started hauling garbage. And if y'all want to go back to the other slide, we can. These were just some of the questions that I'm running through. What is a realistic tip fee for Rutherford County? Considering, and I'm looking at this from an apples to apples comparison. So I looked at 4 different facilities. They're all county owned. They're all transfer station based. Some of them accept material outside of their county and some don't. So that's a choice. Do you only accept waste that's generated in Rutherford County, or do you accept waste that's outside of Rutherford County? So the city of Franklin is at $65 a ton, and they do not accept construction and demolition material. Haven't for years.
Do you know what their volume is, Becky?
It used to be, the station was actually built for 500 tons a day, 1,500 tons a day if you have 3 shifts. So they're typically around 450. The last time I asked, a day. Mm-hmm. Williamson County, we've mentioned them. They only take, so the city of Franklin takes waste generated elsewhere, MSW generated elsewhere, but no C&D, no construction and demolition. So most of those trucks are your standard rear load truck that actually compacts waste. Williamson County, they have one fee for MSW and C&D, which is $75 a ton.
So there are two facilities in Williamson County, one in Franklin and one in Williamson County?
Yes. One is out on Pinewood Road, out near, it's right at the 840 exit. And then the City of Franklin Transfer Station is on Century Court, directly across from the county jail. So Williamson County has a C&D landfill. They have their transfer station where MSW is transferred to West Camden landfill. They charge $75 a ton for either material. And you'll see a mix of vehicles coming and going there. They only accept waste generated in Williamson County. Cheatham County is similar to what, and all of these have similarities, but Cheatham County had a landfill. They actually have a transfer station built at their C&D landfill site. They are charging $75 a ton. They accept Cheatham County material, Cheatham County generated waste. And then the Resource Authority of Sumner County, which is RASCO. Currently, they charge $70 a ton for MSW. They're in the process of building a new transfer station. When they had a catastrophic fire about 8 weeks ago, and so if you ever wonder what happens when Middle Point reaches capacity, well, what happens when you have a catastrophic fire at a transfer station? Everything immediately across the map. So basically, most all of the C&D that was coming into the Sumner County Transfer Station was quickly shifted over to Lebanon, to a private facility in Lebanon, small business there. That doubled his volume, which he wasn't necessarily prepared for. I mean, he handled it, but it was, whoa, wait a minute, hold on, what's happening? You know, I've got twice the number of trucks I normally would. Rasco then quickly said, okay, we have to take care of our residents first. And then we have to take care of our private haulers who are actually hauling material in from Gallatin and Hendersonville. And then they're starting to take waste from other companies now, slowly. If they choose to take C&D material again, it will be $85 a ton. So you're dancing all around that $85 a ton number. That $85 a ton number, a year from now, I'm not sure it won't be there. I think, again, you have to look at supply and demand. Mayor mentioned that there was both a landfill and a transfer station in Williamson County. But if you're familiar with Williamson County at all, we're talking about two totally different areas. There's only 15 miles. I used to live on Pinewood Road years ago, so 15 miles between where I went to work every day and my house, so it was probably 18 miles between the two. But if you can hop off the exit at 840, come through Thompson Station, pull into the transfer station, pull out, grab lunch, and go back on the interstate versus driving all the way around to 840 to the Williamson County landfill, then all of a sudden you've saved time. Time, fuel, wear and tear. But then if you're on that side of the county, it's easy to just pop in the landfill, take care of business, empty your truck at the transfer station, and keep going.
On those prices that you talked about, $65, $75, and so forth, is that tipping fee and transportation cost and environmental everything?
That's the tipping fee that they actually charge. So when you show up at the gate, that's what they charge you per ton. Now what you're talking about is on the back end, so that would be what they actually pay.
Becky, we heard cost, like, I think Republic, the general manager of Republic, made a statement last week at Public Works that our average cost is $73 to $74. And we've seen invoices just in the last week that none of them are really close to that. They're more than that. So are the figures that you're talking about actual rates, or are they, quote, average rates?
So the reason that I brought you government rates is because, and I recommend government entities stick with one tip fee. here's your tip fee, here's the gate, you're welcome to come in, you're welcome to use our facility, this is how we do things, this is what we do to keep people safe. This is the actual dollar amount that you see posted at the gate and that you see on the invoice when you receive it, email, mail, whatever, 10 tons at $75 a ton. You brought me 27.3 tons, here's, $65 a ton.
No other fees.
No.
Thank you.
And that's why I've chose these, because they're truly an apple to apple, as close as you can get. And they're right here in this area, in the Middle Tennessee area.
You may have mentioned William, and I didn't hear if
That's
you
okay.
did mention it, but Williamson County, who does their trucking?
MBI does their trucking, and they take their waste, MBI hauls their waste to West Camden landfill, which is a WM landfill.
MBI, who's that?
That is Mr. Bolt's out of Chicago. That's one of the largest haulers you'll find in the southeast. I've known those folks for a long time. They work with a lot of government agencies across the,
So they do the hauling
yes.
for Williamson County, much the same as the contract that we're
Yes, sir.
considering with waste management. It's
Yes,
the
sir.
exact same thing.
Yes, sir. And I would say, when you look at them and you say, okay, well, we both have a transfer station, we both have a hauling company, we both are hauling to a landfill. You're not, you have one contact at the person you have a contract with. So they're going to actually take care of that hauling and the umbrella of services being offered. You can potentially find another hauler, but I will tell you there aren't that many in this area. Atomic would probably be, MPG was just, MBI just bought MPG. I would say Atomic may be the only other one I know of right now. And there may be somebody in the room that knows more about that than I do, but the only other one I know of is Atomic.
I also saw a couple of invoices, but they were quite a bit higher than $100 tipping fee. But they were pickup trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Do they normally pay more than the larger companies coming in?
It depends. So that's one of the reasons that as a transfer station at the city of Franklin, we actually chose and recommended that we have one tip fee. We keep that tip fee. It's good for everybody. And we had initially, I think we had a $5 minimum, and most recently they had a $10 minimum. I don't know what the minimum is right now, but basically if you come in with a pickup truck, you're typically going to pay $5 or $10. I think Cheatham is $8. Don't hold me to those numbers. I didn't, but somewhere around the $10 mark. So if you have small companies that are doing remodeling work or carpet installation, any of those things that you would see a pickup truck come through, most of these transfer stations actually have a minimum.
$5.
One more question, and
Sure.
you may have said this.
That's okay.
Commissioner McAdoo, I neither one heard you. The contract that we've been looking at has a $50,000 minimum. What is that minimum dollar amount at Williamson County?
I don't know what that minimum dollar amount is at Williamson County. What I will tell you, I looked at that because it was a question, and that truly is directly connected to, that's truly connected to the operation of the transfer station. There's nothing that says you can't operate that transfer station yourself. Is there added liability? Yes, but the way you're doing it with the actual compactor and the cylinder trailer looks more like a tanker than a rectangle tractor trailer. Yeah, there's going to be some damage, but not near the damage you would have if you were hauling if you were using an open top aluminum trailer. The other thing would be if you separate your C and D. At our transfer station, we always got both, and we just had, it's what I called making the cake. Basically, you teach your operator that you put a layer of MSW on the bottom, and then you put a layer of C&D, and you basically layer that trailer so that you're not bogging it down with just C&D that's going to poke out the sides because it's, not compactable.
That would be the open top though, not
Yes,
the
not
tube.
not the tube.
Right, because you can't put C&D in the tube, isn't that
Right.
correct?
No, I recommend you don't. I think,
Right.
having seen some of those trucks on the road, I think there's been some in there, obviously, but it just causes more damage than not.
The transfer station at Williamson County, how long have they existed?
Oh, goodness. I went there in 1998 to the city.
Been a long time.
And yeah, Louis Bumpus was there then, and they had a transfer station. They had a fire, and they rebuilt it.
Williamson County, do they also have a recycling program?
Yes.
And I'm sure that was different than the phase that they built the transfer station. At some point in time, they went into a phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and it included recycling.
Yes.
And did that affect the tonnage as it related to what went?
It
to that
affects the
transfer
tonnage, but the recyclables don't have, cardboard has weight, paper has weight. But when you start talking about plastics, they don't have a whole lot of weight. But you also have to think, if you have a different outlet for those, or they actually have a MRF. They're actually building a new MRF, which is a material recovery facility on their landfill site to make room for. They had a MRF in the city of Franklin city limits next to the jail. They've actually moved that out to the landfill to build a new facility so that they have room to expand the county jail on Century Court.
So Williamson County does have a recycling program?
Yes, sir.
And it's not voluntary, it's mandatory?
It's
A little
convenience center. Yeah. No, they do have an active program in the schools. They have active events like at their county fair and things like that. So they
Sounds
do-
similar to ours.
Yeah. Similar, yes.
So
But-
it's not a mandatory program, it's a voluntary.
Yes, sir.
Knowing the market, as far as our landfill, our transfer station, say $85, knowing the market, how realistic that we would get 50,000 tons a year?
So I looked at that, and let's back up and touch on I don't want to confuse the two. Let's back up and touch on the 50,000 minimum.
Dollars?
Yes, $50,000 minimum a month at $85 a ton. Depending on what type of trucks come through, and I figured this very low. Most trucks can haul, it just depends on what type of truck and what they're hauling. But if you were to say a truck came in with 8 tons on a truck, 73.5 trucks a month. So 73, I think it was 3 trucks a day. 3.3 trucks a day on average. So if you had 3 trucks a day, even if you had one small company that had 3 trips, you'll make that $50,000 at $85 a ton. And I'm not going to speak for a private hauler. I know there are several in the audience behind me, but I will tell you that drivers know as well as owners, because oftentimes they've been the driver or still are. They know where their break even is. They're very mindful of it's hard work. It's not the easiest work in the world. It's an expensive business, and there's money to be made. But once you collect it, you do have to get rid of it. They don't want to take it home and let it sit in their driveway all night till tomorrow. They hope there's a facility open a little later if they get caught in traffic in Nashville. But I promise you there's at least one hauler that would bring you 3 loads a day.
Some of the feedback that this commissioner's been getting, and some of my original thoughts kind of match that, is that there's no way that the tonnage figures that we've been figuring on receiving are accurate. There's no way that they could be accurate. you're challenging that statement.
Well, I'll give you exactly what, so and this is based on the 2022 annual progress report from TDEC. These are the totals of what was generated in every county in the state and where that material went. And this is strictly just MSW. In 2022, Rutherford County generated 427,610 tons of material that was delivered to a landfill for disposal. And I'm going to read.
Is that just MSW?
Yes. And I'm going to read these numbers, and if you check me, I've actually rounded them up or down. So we may be a ton or two off. But 427,610 tons. 20,007 tons went to Kentucky. I have no idea. Don't ask me why. Somebody out there decided it might have been on the way to the family's house. I don't know. 287,171 tons was delivered to Middle Point. That number does include the 50-ish thousand tons that you all generate through your convenience centers and your schools. So that does include your all's waste that you generate.
What was that number again?
287,171 tons. 1,572 tons was sent to Bi-County landfill, which is Clarksville way. 2,033 tons went to Bradley County landfill, which is close down by the city of Chattanooga. 115,422 tons was taken to waste management facilities, or WM facilities. I'll never stop. I'm sorry. Never stop calling them waste management. I've been around too long. Cedar Ridge or West Camden. So I put both of those together. That's 115,422 tons. 1,237 tons went to Meadow Branch landfill, which is over in Athens or McMinn County, which is just off the right side of this map. And then 141 tons was disposed of at the Ray County landfill. So when I say there are 30 counties that contributed to the total number of what went into Middle Point landfill, sometimes it's very small numbers, sometimes it's 7,000 or 8,000 tons a year, sometimes it's 400,000 tons a year. Just depends on where it's coming from, what material it is. This gives you an idea though. So when you look at it, and I do understand that there won't be competition between Rutherford County and Republic. I'm going to say this out loud. So I promise you there are customers who have a contract with Republic Services who, for whatever reason, will choose to come to your transfer station. You won't necessarily know. If you choose to get that list of contractors and you choose to turn them away at your gate, that's up to you. I had people that had been going to Williamson County landfill for years. I didn't expect them to show up. Nobody's mentioned it, but I will tell you that Waste Management, WM, takes 115,422 tons out of Rutherford County every year. I promise you, if their trucks are closer to your transfer station, they're going to take it there and they're going to pay you your tip fee of $85 a ton because they're feeding their own facility, but they're saving money on fuel, time, wear and tear on their trucks, just like a private hauler, just like any other private hauler or small hauler would be doing. I don't think anybody's mentioned that. There's nothing in this whole mix that says Waste Management won't be your customer. And I know that may take a minute to wrap your head around it because it hadn't really been mentioned. And basically, they would become your customer. Yes, you're their customer on the backside with a contract if you choose to go that direction. They're your customer. I mean, you're their customer, but on the front end, they would easily be your customer, bringing in waste to your transfer station.
And the amount that they have here that's just a fraction of that 300-something thousand tons. There's no way we can expect to get anywhere near that. It's going to be a lot smaller number, but they will be contributing.
I would expect they would.
Yes,
If
they're
you
going to be
figure-
paying us
you figure any truck that's in this area that's picking up waste of any sort, they drive from here to,
Antioch.
well, Antioch or
Well, they got an Antioch.
Lewisburg.
They got, well, they got, well, depending on the size of the truck.
Exactly.
I'm not sorry to butt in, but if it just hypothetically, if they're picking up in Laverne, they're gonna go to Antioch, Commissioner. They're not gonna come to Middle Point, right? But if they're over on the west side of the county, I mean, the east side of the county, now the mileage makes sense for them to come to us,
And if it's
potentially.
if it's a certain time of
Bishop.
day, how much
Yeah.
are they? Go ahead.
Also, I'd like to add that this is just Class 1 waste, MSW waste.
Right.
There is 173,000 tons of C&D waste that's generated, construction demolition waste that's generated according to the TDEC solid waste origin report as well in Rutherford County. So that waste will also be looking for a home or a transfer point.
At least part of it.
Yes. I must add, that 173,000 is not currently, that is sent away from Middle Point landfill. It's not included in the total. Of course, everything that's buried in Middle Point landfill is categorized as Class 1 waste, so it's only in the Class 1 origin report. All of the other waste is diverted to other landfills at expense to the haulers who collect it here.
So we touched on your $50,000, and to touch on your 50,000 tons, I think knowing that Waste Management collects 115,422 tons here in Rutherford County, knowing that you have a facility that would welcome them, I'm not sure you're gonna really struggle with trying to get that 50,000 tons, because you're gonna have some private haulers that are small haulers here and there. You're gonna have some of Waste Management's waste or WM's waste. Old habits die hard. You're gonna have, you're gonna have others that are new that come into this area. You may have, who would have ever thought that, when I looked at this, I had to giggle, because who would have ever thought you would take waste all the way to Kentucky? And that's probably, and it just says exported, but probably White Plains, Kentucky, which is north of Clarksville. It's in Russellville, Kentucky, near Russellville, Kentucky, if you're familiar with where that is.
So, I guess I want a binary answer to a binary question. What is the probability in the first 12 months of operation, if I can restate Commissioner Goose's question, what's the probability that we'll do 50,000 tons at $85 a ton of MSW and C&D? Commissioner, did you want to add to that? I just want to...
I just think when you look at the total, 427,610 tons that were generated here, and if you knew why these people went to these other places, you may have a better answer. But it's hard for me to believe that when you open a new facility, again, when you build it, they will come. I had no idea that would happen. When we opened our gate in the city of Franklin, we had more customers than we knew what to do with it first. And it was just because we were there. It was because we kept the place clean. We kept the metal picked up, the nails and the screws and all that picked up off the, we just ran a magnet over it with a...
So it would be a reasonable expectation?
I would think it would be reasonable. If it were me opening a transfer station as a company of my own, I would have no problem with it.
Thank you.
And I treat taxpayer money. I'm pretty frugal, so I treat taxpayer money as if it's important. And I respect what you all have been. Y'all have been put in this position. You all have constituents that say, "Hey, go be my voice," and now you're stuck with this problem that's really got a lot of moving parts. And I commend you for learning about it and trying to have a conversation about it. I just want to try to help you get a good foundation of what you need, so that you can make a decision for yourself, for your constituents.
That last question, did you answer that up there?
If the decision is made to issue another RFP, will Rutherford County get a better price? Absolutely not.
Why?
They've already WM's already held this price for a year. I don't work for anybody. I'm just here to be here. WM has done really well by Rutherford County to hold the price for this long. I don't know what their response said, but typically it's 60 days, 90 days. It's been a year. And I would say that's that's respectable. Something to consider. But $40 a ton, no. We're only seeing these numbers go up.
Any more questions? Yes, sir.
Besides municipal solid waste going to landfills, what other options are there for us to haul our waste to in this state?
In this state, you could potentially take it to,
Can I interject? Are there any incinerators? I know at one time there was a thermal plant up in Nashville. Are there any thermal plants or incinerators like that?
no, Resco used to be an incinerator and they actually flipped the switch off in the
Okay.
early 90s. You could consider Tom Leonard, he's in Sevier County. He's the one that does composting of most of it.
Do they accept out-of-county waste?
I think they do, but I'd have to double check. It's a long haul.
What about Marshall County? Don't they have a MRF?
They have MRF, you can take recyclables there, but not your MSW.
What about Murfreesboro City when they open waste management or
Waste away.
waste away, get there doing it?
If they'll accept Rutherford County waste,
They've been begging us for it,
I've
so I
heard
would say.
I've heard they've abandoned that, Commissioner.
Well, that's why I'm asking,
Yeah.
you know, all I'm hearing is things that, to me, is not really sustainable. And everybody's sitting here saying, well, this is Plan B, Plan A is to dump into Middle Point. Well, I'm here to tell you that I'm looking for Plan A still. Even after this, we need something that's sustainable, that we can not do anything but haul and bury our trash. You know, I don't know if it's gonna be composting, a MRF of our own, a waste to energy. You know, we've been working on this for many years. I've been looking at it since 1998. And I'm not through trying to find a different way to solve this. But part of this contract, if there's alternatives that come up, whether we generate it here in this county or somewhere else, that's something that needs to be looked at in any contract that we do. You know, we're not just gonna go haul and throw in and bury it somewhere in somebody's pile if we've got a better alternative. And that's what I want us to keep looking for, a Plan A, not a Plan B. This contract is a Plan B. You know, right now, the only other plan we got is what we're doing at Middle Point, which is our Plan A now, and we know that's coming to an end sooner or later. But I'm just curious, you said there are no other options other than, I mean, we've looked at different places that are recycling. I'm aware of that.
so I would say one of the presentations at some point to Public Works in the past was how you actually just peel back the layers of what the materials are. Nashville did a zero waste study 2018, and they have a pretty good idea of how much waste is. It was a waste study to say this much is, paper, this much is metal, this much is food waste, this much is whatever those categories are, and I don't know off the top of my head, but as you look at those layers, you can say, okay, well, cardboard's great, and coming from residents, cardboard can add up, but what about your businesses? So then all of a sudden, do you funnel energy toward your businesses and say, recycle your cardboard? Help them find a place to take it. There are times when they could actually be paid for it. Look at your paper, office paper, paper from schools. Food waste is gaining a lot of ground. I don't know a lot about food waste in this part of the country. In the winter, it may not be so bad, but in the summer, I think we got to have a whole lot of training to keep the critters out of the residential areas. But I think composting is an option.
My point on all this there are alternatives to hauling and dumping.
There are.
And what I want to make sure of is the cost difference. For instance, we looked at a guy, I guess he was out of Lebanon for a while, and he was looking at taking our C&D. It might be cheaper for us to haul our C&D to him, or him come hit it, versus this. So, like I say, when we're looking at a contract like this, it's just not, everything goes in this transfer station, and everything goes and gets buried in a hole somewhere. You know, we need to look at everything, and that's what needs to be looked at in a contract.
Mr. McAdoo?
What about next to the last question up there? Why would we do this? What's the rush?
So I would say that you are contracting for guaranteed airspace. So what you're looking for is, I know that I have a place to take my waste from the county. And if you look at the amount of time on each of these landfills, you're gonna see that it's pretty low in most cases, other than your 2 landfills with 19 years each, and then your city of Chattanooga with 50 plus years. And I would say the quicker you get in line to get your airspace, the better, because there is going to be 1 million plus tons. Whenever Republic does decide it's time to close the gate, it's time to consider their landfill full, and they are the ones that will make that decision. It's their property, it's their facility, they know what they internally know what their property and what their operations are capable of. So when they make that decision, whenever that is, there will be 1 million tons going somewhere. So if you put something, if you set routes down now, then you're not going to be worried about where do I scramble next to try to find the next closest place. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
And I think you're in a good position now. You may have been in a better position a couple of years ago because your tip fee wouldn't be at $40 a ton necessarily, but I will tell you, if you go back out to RFP, it will be more than $40.
Becky, how old's the slide?
I did it on September 5th.
The data on the slide is from TDEC, correct? And
Yes.
for what period, I guess?
The life expectancy is from 2023.
Thank you. And they usually do that the last quarter of the calendar year, isn't that
Yes.
right?
Yes, sir.
So it's about 6 months old.
For the
6
previous,
to 8
yes.
months old. Okay, thank you.
They don't have. Last updated Tuesday, December 5th of 2023. So less than a year ago.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Caldwell? Becky, are you done?
I'm done.
I don't want to
here.
rush you, but.
Well, I don't want to.
But we got other things.
Well, yeah, of course you do. There's other business to tend to.
Well, no, other people want to speak, so
I'm just here
I
to
don't
have a
want to.
We got 4
conversation.
more cards.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got to open the floor.
and I want to kind of get through.
Well,
I don't want to lollygag.
if anybody needs my card, feel free to
Thank you, Becky.
call me.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. You know how to find me.
I'm going to call an audible, if that's all right. I was going to have Waste Management come, but I think I'd like for the committee to talk to the independents. We've invited some of them, and some of them have asked to come. And so if that's okay, Becky, I'm going to, yes.
Do you want me to leave that up there?
You can, or you can, would you like it, the committee like it left up there? Does it?
I like it.
Okay.
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
So without objection, I'm going to ask David Sells, Joe Fever, and Patrick. We're going to have 3 of you come up. Sure. Sure, if you'll come up there. I think there's 6 of you, but we only have room for 3, so we'll do 3 at a time. And I'm just going to, yes, thank you. If you will, when you come forward, if you'll just, David, if you'll start and just say who you are, your company, and where you're from for the record, and then in that order, and then just tell us about your business, and then why you're here, and then I'm going to let the committee just ask questions, if that's okay. David, please.
Sure. Dave Sells, 5 Star Disposal. We're located out of Las Casas, Tennessee.
Thank you.
Where do you live?
Las Casas.
Right answer, right?
Joe Foyer, Tennessee Roll-Off. We're based out of Lebanon.
Patrick Scherer, Revamped Dumpsters, live here in Murfreesboro.
Right. David, so tell us about your business, and this is just to generate questions for the committee. So committee, please feel free to just ask away.
So our business is just a few years old. We operate both MSW, residential, county collection, and C&D removal via roll-off dumpsters. We operate here in, honestly, basically we stay in Rutherford County. We will touch Lebanon, Shelbyville, or Woodbury, but we try and keep our operations here. Most everything we do is right here in the county. I just came here tonight because I think this transfer station is the most important agenda that the county has going right now, probably for the last 10 years, really. And I think it's going to be a big difference to us. We all face challenges of trying to get rid of the trash that's collected in Rutherford County and do it responsibly. Middle Point is just not an option for us. We don't go to Middle Point unless we are forced.
Where do you go?
We will go to Smithville with our MSW. We take it to Smithville, Ray County, DeKalb County, excuse me. They own a transfer station there. All of our MSW goes there. About 10 to 20 tons a week, depending upon the week and the time of the year. We operate only in Walter Hill, Las Casas, and Milton, and Auburntown for trash pickup. We do roughly 1,000 homes a week. And so we take all of that to Smithville. The number one reason we go to Smithville with MSW is I can't afford to go to Middle Point. Their MSW rate is much higher than their C&D rate, which makes absolutely zero sense. I also can't afford to send my drivers up Trash Mountain and them sit there for up to 4 hours. I've had a driver there once before for 4 hours and 6 minutes. That was gate to gate. The average is no less than an hour. But you could go there right now and be there for an hour, and I could get there 20 minutes later and I'm there for 3.
So you're almost saying, if I'm interpreting you correctly, it's a no-brainer that you would use our landfill.
Oh, absolutely. We go, you ask where we go, everything, MSW goes to Smithville. The rest of it goes, some of it goes, C&D goes to Smithville, Manchester, there is a place in Laverne that we use. We will go to Nashville from time to time, just depending upon what we've got. There's a place in Lebanon, Rockwood, that I know you guys are familiar with. We go there also. Absolutely. You guys are,
do you know, you said you're a new company, but do you anticipate how many tons you do a month, a year, or?
So we're also small. We operate 50 roll-off dumpsters. That's my number. I'll never have 51, just to be honest with you. It keeps us very happy. And so we are moving roughly about 125 to 200 dumpsters per month. Most of those 30-yard dumpsters, and they average anywhere from, the smallest in a 30 for us is normally around 2 tons. But we do a lot of demo stuff that can be 15 tons in that dumpster, just depending upon what it is. So it varies from location to location.
So how much is that a year?
Well, that's the problem.
A week or a month? It seemed like it's 6 grand.
No, I'm only in 4. So it varies for us. I don't know that I could give you that number and be accurate, and I don't want to give you any numbers that aren't accurate. And he's got his computer with him. I bet he's more accurate than I am, not having my computer. It does change very rapidly. I will tell you that right now in the election cycle, we're seeing construction slow down, and so we're not hauling as many of the big demo boxes and things like that right this moment, and so our tonnage has gone down. But you ask if we'd go there in a heartbeat. Because not only going up Trash Mountain are we dealing with time, I mean, we're also dealing with equipment getting just beat to death. A steer tire in the state of Tennessee has to be a virgin. That means it has to be a brand new rubber tire. If it gets a nail in it, it has to be replaced. It cannot be plugged. These tires, depending upon what you buy, is going to average $400 to $600. You can replace. Sometimes you'll replace 2 or 3 in a week if you're going to Middle Point. They just have no way of dealing with it. And that's only some of the problems up there. I mean, I have laid in the landfill underneath a truck in the rain, cutting a box springs and a mattress off of a drive shaft for 2 hours up there. Because one of my drivers went up there. I mean, when we got into this, we thought this would be easy, right? We have our own service truck now that barely moves once we stopped using the landfill. We saved a lot of money. But we've incurred a lot of cost of transportation. Every mile we're on the road is one more mile that we could be involved in an accident. So if this was here in Rutherford County, we would absolutely, I've said this already, but at $85 a ton, if you needed me to sign a contract that I'd bring you every piece of garbage I picked up for the next 3 years, I'd be happy to do that with you at $85 a ton. I'll sign it right now. It's invaluable for this community. And as a resident who pays taxes also, not just a hauler, I think this is incredibly important for us. We cannot let Republic get any bigger than what they are. And if we don't do something, that's what's got to happen, right? We either got to give it to Republic and let them grow, and they're going to take all of Jefferson Pike at some point and build a mega site, or we got to figure out a way to get rid of it. And this is really the only way to do it.
Thank you, David.
Did I understand you correctly? I understand you mentioned roughly 20 tons a week.
MSW?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And that's for about 1,000 homes.
And you didn't give a number on your C&D?
I didn't, because I would be inaccurate.
Okay.
And to give you an idea of that so that you understand it, Walter Hill is much lighter than Auburntown. Closer you are to the city, we don't cook at home as much. They go out more, they have paper waste, versus out in the rural areas, it's a heavier garbage can. So that's something for you to take in mind when you're thinking about that, weight per house. That's really important. The closer you are to the city, the lighter your trash seems to be.
Mr. Fever?
Joe Foyer.
Foyer, my apologies. I'm having
No
trouble
problem.
reading my solid waste director's scribble. Blame the solid waste director and my bad eyes. But please forgive me.
Just sign my name to the bottom of everything David said, and I'll give you a few numbers as far as on our end. We're 92% C&D haulers. I started Tennessee roll-off in 2021 as a hobby with a used roll-off truck and 5 dumpsters. As of this year, we've just added our 8th brand new truck, and we're well over 300 dumpsters.
That's a heck of a hobby.
Yeah, I want to go back and smack my high school guidance counselor that said if I didn't go to college, I'd end up a garbage man. And we operate in Middle Tennessee from Clarksville to Cookville, essentially, and then, all points north and south. The Rutherford County area, I'm counting down the days until you guys get this open. For last year, like I said, we're 92% C&D, 8% MSW. We did 5,100 tons last year for 2023 in Rutherford County. And this year to date so far, we're at about 5,300 tons. And almost 100% of that we send out of the area. We go to either Manchester, Lebanon, or into Nashville with it. I don't need to repeat all the reasons David said, but everything he said about Middle Point, that's on average 1 to 3 hours per turn. So when, we've got a driver making $30 an hour in a truck, on overtime by Wednesday, it just pays to go into Nashville, where it's 20 minutes in and out of the transfer station there, or up to Lebanon, where we deal with Rockwood there. We're driving a lot more, but it just, it makes a lot more sense for us to do that. But at the same time, I'm averaging 3 trucks, running 3 trucks in Rutherford County, when really I would only need 1 to do the, we do anywhere from 8 to 15 I do 30-yard roll-offs, primarily construction debris. So we do anywhere from 8 to 15 per day. And it would be a lot more efficient for me. I could keep 1 truck here and just, hub and spoke around the transfer station, as opposed to I'm sending 3 trucks here because we have to haul all the way to Nashville or Lebanon, and, making multiple trips coming back and forth. We hit the traffic, going outbound. We hit the traffic coming inbound. It's extremely inefficient for us. And this is the one central area that, everywhere else, I've got a West Nashville truck, I've got a Sumner County truck, and what we do is we just hover around different transfer stations, and that's how we operate, where 1 truck will stay in one area and just feed that, where this is my Achilles heel here, because everything's got to go out of town. And, between the repairs and tires and mud, everything at Middle Point, we don't even consider it. The only thing we haul to Middle Point is asbestos,
How many tons
specialty.
did you say you did last year?
Last year was 5,100.
That's here in Rutherford County.
That's Rutherford County, what we've sent out of county.
And what you've got sitting in the room here is more than 12 to 15% of your yearly 50,000 tons. And this is just 5 guys sitting in a room talking to each other. So from a perspective what you were mentioning earlier of potential pushback on hitting those thresholds, it's the opposite is very true. You're going to crush those thresholds. The numbers will go through the roof on you. It will be a potential opportunity to make money and get into a scenario where you're looking at what can you do with the excess.
Patrick, I want to, hold on.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I want to slow down because you're addressing something that's very important to the committee, if you don't mind. Patrick Shearer, right?
Yes, yep.
Can you describe your business and then, because I want you to restate that question because I want to challenge the statement you made. So just
sure.
your business and
So
define
it's
it
very
for us.
similar to these guys, right? It's just dumpster roll-off, so we operate based in Murfreesboro. We'll actually sell across the state, so we cover all of Middle Tennessee. I've got some in Chattanooga and in Knoxville, and those are my eastern and most southern points. We currently run between 100 and 150 dumpsters a month in those areas, the majority of which is the Nashville, Murfreesboro area for us. That's our home base. That's where we're located. I live behind Oakland Middle.
Can you quantify the business in the Rutherford County market for the purposes of this transfer
40 to
station?
50 dumpsters a month.
What's that? What
And
would
that
that
would
be?
be
What would
in
that tonnage?
tonnage, average dumpster is probably 2 tons of what they're saying, so another 100 tons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're gonna put 100 tons a year into?
No, that'd be a month.
A month.
Yeah. So 1,200. I mean, it adds up quick, guys. But the other detail is like what Joe was mentioning from a 30-yard and Dave as well, from the demolition perspective, you run a 30-yard into a tear down of a house. Each dumpster coming out is 10 tons to 15 tons to 20 tons. I mean, there's the average of 2 can easily be skewed very quickly when you're running a specific job that can then skyrocket your total tons for the year.
And I think what you guys need to understand too is like for Joe, if he had an easy place to dump here, his numbers skyrocket. Now, I'd like for you to do this for only Rutherford County businesses, but, sorry buddy, but I mean, his numbers go up if he has a place to dump. He doesn't like to come here. Joe and I are good friends. Joe doesn't like to be in Rutherford County because there's nowhere to dump. It's not easy here. Am I wrong?
No,
Those numbers would go up, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And, the numbers I gave are stuff that's just specifically for Rutherford County and what's been diverted. I mean, that's not counting anything that would come from surrounding areas. We go to Shelbyville and, Point South and everything where, on a return trip, it'd be, I would have the same truck that services Murfreesboro would start off in the morning going to Shelbyville, or so if you guys were going to take out a county as well, for the origin, we'd also be bringing, I don't know the amount, but some additional volume in as well for that.
I think our numbers would just go up just because our turnarounds would be so much quicker. We wouldn't have all these windshield miles trying to get to all these places to dump quicker and get back out. So we'd be able to make more money. Another Rutherford County business would be able to make more money. I'd give you guys some more taxes. Yes.
Let me ask a question, and this is not, probably doesn't have anything to do with anything other than just my curiosity. If you carry Rutherford County garbage outside of Rutherford County to someplace else, is the tipping rate different for the garbage that comes outside of that county that you dump in?
The rate's not different. They do, some places ask where it came from and some places don't. I don't know why some do and some don't.
So there's no surcharge for, like, DeKalb County accepting garbage outside of DeKalb?
The only place I pay anything besides just a flat rate is at Middle Point. They have fuel recovery fees and surcharge fees and all these kind of things. But everywhere else, this is your rate.
Like your Verizon bill dealing with them, Your phone bill's supposed to be, $100 a month, and it's, $206 every time you leave, and you don't know why. It's a Middle Point bill.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to be honest and throw them under the bus. Not everybody pays the same rate at Middle Point. They've approached me. When we started, we knew no better, right? So everything went there. We left. And I'm a small potatoes guy, but they showed up at my door and were like, hey, we want your business back. And I'm like, well, this is what I'm paying. This is it. I can beat that. I'm like, well, your gate rate's not that. No, we can beat that. We can get you in here and we can do it, you know. And so I know not everybody's paying the same thing there, which is fine. They're private business. They can do whatever they want. But, you know, it makes it hard in our industry to compete with one another, you know, and be fair with one another and be fair to the taxpayer or to our citizens that we're trying to serve. And so at the end of the day, if we know what that rate is, it'd be amazing. You know, if it's just clear, it'd be great.
Well, we have some other gentlemen that want to speak. Is there any more questions for these gentlemen?
Not your dad.
Jimmy Shear.
You still have over off Windsor.
Windsor. Yeah.
Your dad was my son's baseball coach. So.
That doesn't surprise me. Coach for 20
We're making a connection. We're doing a deal. We're doing a tight deal.
That's it.
Thank you,
Can somebody in the
gentlemen.
audience say something? Ask one of these guys a question?
Well, no, that would be out of order.
I've got a question.
Yes, sir, please.
Are any of y'all willing to pay $150 a ton?
I don't think that would, that'd be a little much. We'd have to weigh that
That's a
against
little rich.
hauling out of county.
I kind of thought that too, yeah.
I can go to Smithville for cheaper than that.
I think so. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So, we have
Come dump it in my sinkhole.
rapid removal dumpster, Logan Pittman, and Anthony with AP, and commercial waste disposal dumpster with, and I'll get up and give my chair, with Mike and Lori Cerrone. I think they left. Mike, yeah, Mike, come on up, and then Matthew Pitts with P&Q. Oh, come on up, and that should finish us up. So, Matthew, we'll start with you, if you don't mind.
Yes, yeah.
That's fine, just, yeah, don't hit the computer. We'll start with you, if you'll just introduce yourself, where you're from, and you'll just kind of describe your business, and then we'll come on down the line. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so Matthew Pitts, I own and operate P's and Q's Pickup. We're a little bit different than the guys before. We're primarily a full service junk removal, so we come to your property, you know, whether it's residential, commercial, and we'll bring the trucks and the guys to do the labor, the lifting and the loading for you. So we pretty much take everything, but primarily we're 99% C&D. So we try to stay out of the household garbage world. But yeah, I mean, everything that these guys said, I mean, it's verbatim. I can repeat it. But as a you know, a smaller business, we're just a 2-truck operation. We've been in business since 2016. We are Murfreesboro based, but I mean, we started. It's kind of funny with this. The time frame is kind of the time frame of my business. So we actually started dumping at Rutherford County landfill when it was operational. So we've kind of seen all the different options that we've had in the area. We've used all of them. We started out at the Rutherford County landfill. We went to Middle Point, and we made the decision just like everybody else. It's just we just can't do it. You know, we can't afford it. I mean, price is important, but you know, we can't afford getting stuck. You know, time is money. Just tearing up our equipment. So we drive now. We go to all the different areas. We go to the Manchester transfer station that has been mentioned. We go into Nashville. We do use the facility in Smyrna as well. So.
Yes.
Logan Pittman, rapid removal, fairly new to the dumpster business still, started at the beginning of this year. I'm not really certain what else I can add to it because every single thing has already been touched on between getting the truck getting stuck, the maintenance on the vehicles, the extra fuel to go out of area to recycle. I also use a facility in Smyrna. I'm not sure if that's considered a transfer station or what, but they went up $30 a ton.
Is that the one off Old Jefferson Pine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, technically in Laverne, so.
Yeah,
it's a C&D facility, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, thank you.
And that's primarily what I deal in. And the price point, obviously, you know, the higher it is to recycle, the less profit margin you have, of course. But this facility, I actually walked the property to kind of see like where it was because I wasn't even certain where it was going to be because they said near the landfill, but wasn't sure. I personally think it'd be very beneficial. It's about the same distance, almost a mile from my lot. there as it is from my lot to the Smyrna facility. So it's not really necessarily saving me, at least for my lot, on fuel per se, but having a facility that has a cleaner ground where I'm not going through tires. I just had to replace one last week. From what I've been told what the rates are going to be, they'll be cheaper, which will help me more since the same distance. I'm not necessarily saving on fuel, but I can save on dump fee. And I would 100% every single dumpster be going to this transfer facility and this transfer facility only because it only makes sense to do it.
Lori and Mike Cerrone were with Dumpster. I'll speak for her today.
She must be the brains of the outfit.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The office is in Murfreesboro. The yard where we keep the trucks and dumpsters is in Bell Buckle, closer to Christina. Yeah, this would be very beneficial for us. I think last month we did 236 tons. Probably do over 2,700 tons this year, I would imagine. And it's pretty spread out though. So 80 tons of that went to AAA Republic. We do work up there. 50 tons went to Recycling Partners. I'd love that to be 0 tons. But the reason that happens is because I can't spend 2.5, 3 hours. And that was consistently for months at Middle Point.
Still
Can't do it. So now on occasion you can get out of there within an hour, but you can't, we're volume based. You can't do it. So you can't have drivers spending, if they've got 3 trips, that's potentially 6 to 9 hours stuck at the landfill in a given day. Can't do it. So this would be very beneficial for us.
So what do you think your average would be coming up?
How much of that would come? So Middle Point got 76 tons last month. So take 76 plus the 50 that went to Recycling Partners, 130 some tons, something like that. 115 tons. But I mean, if it's everything you hope it is, that'll be even more than that. That we'd be more encouraged, because sometimes we're down at Manchester, sometimes we're at Williamson County, and we might go more miles just to be local, to be close. I don't want to pay the tire tax at Recycling Partners. In my mind, they owe us thousands of dollars in tires. About one out of every 5 runs, I've got to go fix a tire, going to Recycling Partners.
And that tonnage was a month.
That's a month.
Thank you.
So my name is Anthony. I'm with AVAP Dumpster Service. I just wanted to thank Mayor Carr and everyone else here present for having us. So we're also another local waste hauler located here in Rutherford County. Our team has a combined experience of about 10 plus years in the industry. We service Rutherford County as well as most of the Middle Tennessee area, specializing in non-hazardous solid waste. I would say that we're mainly, about 99% to 95% C&D, and then the rest is going to be the municipal solid waste. And I've actually separated the benefits of the transfer station into 3 different points, and I call it abbreviation ACE. So first one's going to be affordability, second one's going to be convenience, and then third one's going to be environmental responsibility. So the first one is affordability. So with the tonnage fee that was introduced, you do have the tonnage fee, but then you also have the time that we save, not having to haul the waste. We want a clean facility. Going to Middle Point, it was stated before, we actually run a little bit of a different operation. So rather than having traditional roll-off dumpsters or roll-off trucks, our fleet is entirely tandem axle dump trailers. So we have to we're plugging tires every week. We've just had to replace a tire, $137 per tire times 4 tires times 15 dump trailers in our fleet. And so that's a big cost there. And then so next is...
All those at Middle Point?
So some of them were at Middle Point, some of them were at another facility, Recycling Partners, since it's mainly C&D. When you're running over construction trash, you've got nails, you've got various things that can get stuck in tires, and that's only the trailers. The trucks are going to be more expensive, 4 tires for the truck, so there you go. And next thing, we've got convenience. We're looking for a reliable, solid waste disposal facility. I can say with 100% confidence that every single load that we take is going to be, if this transfer station opens, or when it does, it's going to be taken here. And we can run, I would say, around 60 to 70 tons of waste per month. And, the more runs that we can make, within a day to a facility that's closer, that's more convenient, that's got good hours of operation, the better it can be for us. And then, like I said, every single load that we're going to take is going to come here. And then next thing is environmental sustainability and responsibility. So, of course, being a local waste hauler here in the county, we want to make sure that we're, properly disposing of waste, and it's going, when it leaves the customer's house or the job site or the local business that we're servicing, we want to make sure that it's taken somewhere that is responsibly disposed of, and it's not ending up on the side of the road or somewhere else.
Are you familiar with the size trailers that our transfer station can take, and are you good with that? Your trailers will work with our facility?
I am not familiar with that, sir.
Bishop, he mentioned the size of his trailers, will they work with us?
What are the size of your trailers, sir?
So they're tandem axle dump trailers, anywhere between 14 and 16 foot in length.
Yes.
So just general, but we use them, like I said, in replacement for on-site dumpsters.
Yeah, they typically get a little smaller.
Two gentlemen here, just for clarification, y'all were mentioning, you mentioned Laverne, both of you mentioned Smyrna. Are you both really meaning Laverne?
Yes, sir, it's the same thing.
Okay, so,
I think they're talking about the same facility.
Yeah.
On Jefferson Pike?
When I hear Smyrna, I'm thinking our recycle center, so.
Yes, sir.
I will say one thing, sir. I see a lot of these gentlemen here at the waste disposal facility, and then, when we were talking about, are we going to hit that tonnage mark per month, I can unequivocally say that is a very low number that we will bust through that roof. You know what I mean? There's a lot of traffic that comes through, and gentlemen like me in the industry really see how much waste is generated. Rutherford County, through the years has really went up in population, of course. So with more people comes more trash, whether that's municipal solid waste, whether it's construction waste. It's all generating, and it's all got to go somewhere.
The other issue I see too is recycling partners, and I could be stirring the pot here saying this, but I've heard in the rumor mill that they've had their business posted for over a year for sale. They've also moved their large pile more forward. So from what I've heard, that they're selling the back part of the property to do some type of large construction apartment. I don't know what they're doing, but with the business being for sale and they're not expanding, they're retracting on their property. I mean, that's only going to funnel more recycling away from that facility, and then we have nowhere else to go other than Middle Point. And I have a smaller cab over engine truck that I have to really creep up that hill. It's on the best run I ever did. I was out in an hour and I think 8 minutes or something, because it takes me roughly 30 up, roughly 30 down, and that's with no line, going straight, backing up into the pile, dumping and going. I've been in the line with it halfway down the hill, and it take me over 3 hours. And I'm a one-man operation. I run my own trucks, or my own truck, my own dumpsters. Just me. So when I'm tied up and I'm the only employee, that really hinders me a lot as well. It puts me behind on my schedule. I can't get as many dumpsters out. Somebody's calling, hey, I want one right now. I was like, well, I'm stuck in line. Can it wait 3-4 hours? And then they, with no disrespect, call another company, and then they end up servicing them instead. So I lose a customer just because I'm sitting in line waiting.
And a couple things here that Mr. Pittman said. That is the same facility, and not to bash on the facility. That's the same facility that went up $30 a ton here this year.
Within 6 weeks, yeah.
And that leads us, on a business side of things, we want to make sure that we're serving, the residents in our community at an affordable price. A lot of what we charge our containers for, the biggest, I would say, just on the financial side of things, the biggest controller is that what we charge, or what we're getting charged, the tip fee per ton. Because we generally, and I can't speak for everybody, generally we include X amount of tons in the price that we charge for the customer. If the customer goes over those tons, or the weight limit, they're going to be charged an additional fee. So if we want to remain affordable, we need some sort of affordable and convenient place. I know that we need a balance between affordability and convenience, because the more convenient a place is, the less affordable it's going to be. But another option is, there was another facility that was mentioned in Manchester. The facility in Manchester has a 2-ton minimum at $70 a ton, $140 plus a fuel surcharge there. I think I'm out there around $152.75, and they're a transfer station, so they take municipal solid, they take construction, things of that nature. But yeah, we're just trying to, remain affordable and just kind of keep our fleet going and servicing, all these residents in the county.
Since we got all these haulers here, I got a question for you. A couple of you mentioned it. It's mainly guys that are doing out of county waste. How do we, as a Rutherford County entity, ensure that the only waste coming into our facility would be Rutherford County waste when you've got haulers that are outside the county that do business outside?
So, sir, it was mentioned Williamson County landfill. So what Williamson County landfill does is they only accept trash from Williamson County. But upon entering Williamson County landfill, you're asked, if you're a commercial hauler, you're asking, is this coming from a job site? They have you state the address of the job site to verify that the waste is coming actually from Williamson County. And then they proceed. If you tell them an address outside of Williamson County, they're going to turn you around and go somewhere else.
So basically, we're taking them at their word.
Essentially at their word. In my knowledge, just being in the industry, there's no way to really tell where waste is coming from.
Well, I think I mentioned this the other day. I read where some lady was throwing iPads or iPods in her waste to see where her waste went. And she found out.
Yeah.
So I guess we could, but it depends on where you want to, how far you want to take that.
Yes, sir.
But if we legitimately don't want outside waste, that we're going to have a way to verify that. So.
What if it's a local company, a Rutherford County company, that just, goes all over the place?
Well, that's why I asked the question.
Yeah. I mean, because we'll go to Nashville, we'll go to Columbia.
Yeah.
I'd like to dump it at home. Sometimes, right? Sometimes.
I understand that.
Yeah.
We don't want it.
That's
why we're having this discussion anyway.
Commissioner Good?
My question on that is if they bring a load in from, I don't know, Wilson County, and you give us $85 a ton for it, and that helps us meet our $50,000 a month, I'm not seeing a problem. Me too. That's all right.
Well, I don't want to get off in the weeds. That's not a discussion, I think.
Well, okay, I get it.
If you don't mind, a point of order. I mean, that's for something for this committee and Public Works to have a discussion at a later date when it comes to policy, when we get to that point, Mr. Chairman, if that's okay.
That's awesome.
No, that's fine. I don't want to, I want to stay with the contract and the reason for the contract. And so if you don't mind, Commissioner, I want to mothball that question.
He gabbled me down.
Yeah. I tried real politely, but I basically handed it off to Commissioner Johnson is what I did.
Well, just one more question.
Thank you.
So, we've heard from 7 independents.
Yes, sir.
Do we know how many independents there are operating out of Rutherford County? Or
Bishop, I know we contacted 46, did we not?
Contacted 46. This was just a small
A
group
sample.
Sample of folks that were actually available and willing to come in today. We had every single person that was on the list of 46, which is just a simple Google search of who does hauling in Rutherford County. Every single person that we spoke to said that they would utilize that transfer station.
And those are just the people you found on Google.
But also to give you an idea about that, if you looked back to 2019, that number would have probably been closer to 10 to 15. So you've been around that long. The numbers have accelerated in the last 3 years.
Growing industry.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate these.
I think it's
coming
time for
out.
me to leave because I didn't say that, and I'm one of them that was contacted. And I just keep getting dirty looks from Mr. Carr. So it's
Why
time
do
for
you,
me to go.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
We're going to have you up, I think.
Well, sir?
Sir, I was gonna ask,
Come on back in.
You coming next? We only got so many.
Yeah, I only
Did
got,
I say yes? I didn't talk to you, did I? Your Matt did.
excuse me, with point of order.
yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. Please have a seat, we'll get to you.
Yeah, you spoke out earlier and he said it wasn't appropriate. It wasn't at that time, but that doesn't mean you can't speak before the end of this. But these gentlemen are up here right now, so,
But I appreciate everyone coming,
I won't hear everybody.
and I know we got some more to hear from, but sitting through long presentations. Appreciate it.
Thank you, gentlemen. And I think it's Mr. Harris, isn't it? Yeah, right. And so let me just explain, if I might. I had a list of names that was provided, and so I wanted to go through those who'd gotten on the list, and then what I was going to do, which I'm going to do now, is any independent that's here that hasn't been recognized, I'd be glad for you to come up and address the committee.
Sure, I will.
And if you'll introduce yourself,
I
your
will.
company, and that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
We got 3 more seats.
Yeah, do we have anybody else here?
And it's just a process, and we're working through it.
There was
It
absolute-
wasn't to leave you out.
There was no ill will meant, I promise you.
At least not on my part, 'cause I
I'm
was
only
intending
gonna
on
say a
hearing you
couple
speak.
of things, and y'all may not wanna hear it, but, Michael Harris, owned Dumpsters Unlimited, been in business for 20 years in Rutherford County. When all of this, before the waste management ordeal came up with the mayor called me, wanted a meeting with me, and Bishop Wagner, and the county attorney. I did that. I went to his office, and he said, man, you've shed a lot of light on these things that we didn't think anything about. We didn't know some of the things that you brought up. I'd like to have, tell me if I'm wrong, Joe, I'd like to have another roundtable meeting with a bunch of haulers to get some good ideas. Crickets. Nothing ever was brought up about that until this issue with Joe signing the contract with Waste Management.
Saying ideas on the way we should approach.
I shed a lot of light on some things, some scenarios and some things that I had spoken with Joe about in this meeting, in his office. He was going to have another meeting, and I heard nothing from anybody until after the contract was signed with Waste Management. And I still didn't have anything. Friday, Matt called me and he asked me if I wanted to come to this meeting tonight at 4:30. Still nothing about what it was about, just we're inviting all the haulers if they want to come to this meeting. And I didn't even know it was a budget and finance meeting. It was supposedly just for the waste haulers, like a roundtable that I thought was going to happen months ago.
To get ideas on the way we should handle approaching.
I don't know what he had in mind.
transfers.
This is purchasing committee, not budget.
Right.
Well, whatever this meeting
Just
was
to
scheduled.
clarify.
Yeah, it's a scheduled meeting.
Well, you've heard some of the other haulers testify or make statements. Are you in agreement with those statements? Do you have anything to share? Or, what's your feelings on the transfer station?
I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot and say I would never come to your transfer station. That would be asinine to do that. I'm not going to do that. I do go to Middle Point. I do get a little better rate than everybody else. I take a lot of tons there, about 5,000 tons a year to Middle Point. So obviously, I'm in business. I give a customer who rents 30 dumpsters a month, he's going to get a better rate than you that's renting one. Of course, that's their business. The time waiting, everybody has hiccups. Everybody has machines that break. We have trucks that break. You're going to sit in line once in a while. I'm okay with it. Do I bitch and scream? Yes, I do. I complain about it. Nothing I can do about it other than just suck it up and wait. Now, what I was going to say when I wanted to interject before was I can't remember your name. David. Says he goes to Ray County. That's 125 miles. That's 250-mile round trip. You telling me he could get there and back
Mr. Harris?
In less than an hour?
Mr. Harris, just to correct you, he corrected himself after he said that, for the record.
I didn't hear that.
That's what he did. He doesn't, Dave, do you go to Ray County?
No, it's Smithville, which is DeKalb County.
Yeah, he misspoke. And he corrected himself. For the
How many
record.
miles away? Smith. Okay. So that's still 100 miles. Round
I'm in
trip.
Las Casas. It's a 32-minute drive.
The Smith County.
Smith is not up there.
It's a transfer station, not a landfill. That's why.
Well, that's pretty much all I had to say. Was there's a lot of stuff going on around this transfer station that I don't think is being truthful. Especially with me being told that I said I would come here. There's another lie. I did not say I would go to your transfer station. I'm not saying I'm not going to, but I didn't tell him over the phone this week that I would be there. So all 46 people didn't say yes, they would use the facility.
Well, he said he didn't talk to you.
His assistant did, Matt, whoever Matt is.
I don't believe he said, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe he said all 46 will come here.
Yes, he did say that.
I made that, yes.
Okay.
I don't believe that he was on the list of 46 from the Google list. He was on a separate piece of paper that Matt had of a different call.
But you said 46 said they would come here?
46 on the Google list, all of them said that they would come to our station.
But he wasn't on the list?
He wasn't on that list. I had his number from another conversation, the one that he referred to from the mayor.
So we have 47.
Huh?
So we have 47.
And if we're gonna get into honesty and semantics, he had
let's have order.
The transfer station, is it a good idea in your mind for your business?
I'm not, there again, yes, I would probably utilize it if it was available.
Sure.
Not saying that $85 a ton is good or bad. I'm not gonna get into that argument right now.
Understood.
But I did have one more question. We're using the tube trailers, but I believe the lady that was sitting here said that C&D can't go into tube trailers. So we got, I wrote it down, somebody's quoted as saying 173,000 tons per bishop of C&D. Where's it gonna go if it can't go into tube trailers?
That's correct. So we have two bays, tube trailer for MSW and open top for C&D. Two loading bays.
So you're gonna use open tops and tube trailers?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, this is actually for Mr. Piercy. He complains about truck traffic now on Jefferson Pike. Now you're wanting to add people. You're wanting more people to come to utilize the transfer station. You think the truck traffic ain't gonna get worse on Jefferson Pike? I bet you nobody thought about that.
Any other questions for Mr. Harris? Thank you, Mr. Harris, and my apologies for the confusion. All right, if there's, do y'all need to take a couple of minutes for a bathroom break before we bring waste management on the contract?
Yeah, it'll be about an hour.
I can order pizza. I think we're almost to the end, Commissioner. Do y'all need to take a short break, or are we ready to continue?
Do we have 2 more blocks left, Waste Management and Commissioner Piercy?
That's Kit, that's all we have.
Okay.
Yeah, we only got 2 or 3 more items.
We don't have quite that, Commissioner. So Carl Boyd says I'm going to take 2 minutes. We're going to take a very brief recess. And with that, we're back in session. I'm going to call one more audible. Commissioner Piercy gets up at 4 o'clock every morning, and I know that's a fact. And he's asked if he could come in right before Waste Management, and then we'll finish with Waste Management. Steve, why don't you come and share your thoughts with this committee, because I know this is an issue that's you're passionate about for many, many years, and we appreciate that.
Gentlemen, I thank you for letting me speak here tonight. I had a lot to say, but I'm going to cut it short just on y'all's benefit. Most of you's heard it before from me. It's easy to sit in these crowds, it's easy to watch these on television and tell there's still tension on these committees. It's easy to do. In my opinion, we've got 2 issues on the table. One of the first issue is with Mayor Carr and his actions that he took by signing the contract to us the wrong way. Our other issue is our county trash. You can tell that interest is hindered and disturbed between the 2. It's easy to see. Even my wife at home watches this and she can see it. Of course, I know it because I'm partially involved in this. My opinion is we need to handle this in 2 different situations, and after listening to the steering committee last night, it appears that we are. I would really like to see y'all clear your mind of our mayor problem, though he has admitted publicly he made a mistake. His office had acted incorrectly. But separate that from the county's trash issue. The trash issue is everybody in the county. Some of the issues with the mayor seem to be on a personal level. which I can understand that. Just knowing the facts that's been spread around. We've gone through this process. We approved the RFP. We approved the $20 million bond. We've approved the design for the transfer station. We've already spent a large sum of the money on site prep and getting ready to pour concrete. Bishop, have we poured any concrete yet?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We're already that far along. The bond that we've taken, the way I understand it, has to be spent on this project. We're bound to it. We can't sell the transfer station. We can't lease this transfer station. So unless we could possibly come up with some other great idea to use a $20 million metal concrete floor building, I'd say it's going to have to be a transfer station. Just my thoughts on that. I don't know what else we could do with it. We were trying to develop it into where part of it could be transferred, part of it maybe someday could be turned into a MRF, like Mr. P had talked about earlier. And there's still room on that property there to build onto it if we ever find the golden egg that somebody can do with our recyclables or whatever we can get out of it. But today there's really no end value to most recyclable materials. The market's pretty low on all of it. You know, I'd ask you to reflect back to the time before you found out the contract had been signed and sent back, and ask yourself, now how would I vote on this without that happening? We need to move forward. We're always considering trying to find new ways to get revenue for our tax purposes without raising our property taxes. The difference you can save between the contract in hand and a new contract will be a savings to all our residents of Rutherford County. Because a new contract will most likely cost us more money, and that's going to in turn cost us more money to operate. There's no doubt about it. You know, there's been concern about the 50,000 tons and the $15.37 a ton to load it. When we first started talking about this, that $15.37 did not exist in the original RFP. That has been added on as a convenience, as an like a per diem. They've added it to try to help us, to relieve us of the liability of the owning the equipment, the damage we could cause. But if it's a game changer, take it out of this contract that's been put in here. Let Bishop do it himself. Let him do it for 12 months. That'll save the time from when our business starts out to when it gets where it can self-support the 50,000 tons a year. You're not going to do 50,000 tons the first month. It ain't going to happen. I've been in business a long time. I've started many new businesses, and it's a fact. It takes a while to get something off the ground. Let us support the cost for Bishop to run it. You can either buy equipment, you can lease it for 6 to 12 months, and let him run it. Let him hire a couple of people to do it. You might want to hire somebody to guide him along, because he's never run a transfer station, as far as I know. But it's an option. If the 50 tons a month is a game changer for y'all, take it out. You can always go back and put it back in. If you want to do it later on as a RFP, let a RFP out for the operations of it, if we see we can't do it. You know, I asked you to just clear your minds. We were all elected to do the same thing. One was to represent our district that voted us into this office, and two is to represent the entire county. And I feel like if we can separate our two problems I talked about first, if y'all can do that, I think you'll make good decisions. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson, very much. With that, and without objection, Waste Management, if you'll come forward and introduce yourself and your position.
Sure.
And we will now begin discussing the contract. And I guess, Nick, if you need to come sit at the table, we'll just call you at the appropriate time, if that's okay.
Yeah, well, good evening. My name's Rob Owen. I work with Waste Management and our government contracting branch, which is we call public sector service. Tom and I work together. Have been in the industry a long time and have been around the periphery. I know I've been around a few of y'all presenting years ago, so glad to be here and excited and looking forward to answering any questions, and I'll open it up. I don't have anything prepared.
Can you just, or how familiar are you with the contract? I assume you're quite familiar with it. Would that be okay?
Pretty much, yes,
okay.
sir.
And if I guess in my opinion there, other than the legal language that was negotiated between our attorneys and Waste Management attorneys, the points of the contract that I think are, that in my mind are relevant, are the rates, which are the disposal rate, the transportation rate, and the loading rate, and then the term, what we have is we have a 4 5-year terms, or 1 5-year term and 3 5-year options. Or if you're familiar with those particular facets of the contract, can you just explain those, and if any of those and the necessity of those, or that, just explain those if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, just kind of going through it, right? The initial RFP.
Let me stop you right there.
Please.
There's going to be a motion made to open up the contract again, and I don't want that contract explained or what we're going to negotiate to be discussed tonight.
Fair enough.
Would you like to make that motion now, or would you like to have a conversation?
I've got it prepared, and I want to make it at the appropriate time. But I don't want to talk about portions of that contract that we want to open up for negotiations. And if y'all are going to say that we're not open to clarify some things that came out of our committee process last week, it'll be a real short vote. I'm assuming that you guys want to do business with Rutherford County. And I know most of the people that I've talked with want to do business with Waste Management. So I'm assuming what Mr. Piercy said a minute ago, if the process would have followed its logical order and the contract came before this committee before it was signed, it would have been vetted through our committee process. That's what happened last week. That committee came up with several items that they did not consider to be in the long-term best interest of the county. And those are the items that we want to open up. And I feel extremely uncomfortable in talking about those items right here. And if we do talk about them, that motion that was going to come out of me will not.
Well, I appreciate that. First off, I'm not the person you're going to negotiate with, or whatever the group is. I'm not going to negotiate here in a public setting. I don't think it's appropriate. We would love to do business with you all. If you pose that as a question, are we prepared to do that? Absolutely.
I'd like to add to that. I sit on 3 committees that has looked at this: purchasing, property, public orders, and budget. And all 3 committees voted down this contract. One of them was a 3-3 vote, which still failed. If I hadn't had to leave, it would have been 4-3 and still failed. And I agree with Chairman Phillips. Now, I've got an inkling of what he may come up with for a solution to this motion. But I feel the same way. I don't think we need to negotiate it here. If you go back and look at those 3 committees, you'll see a lot of the concerns that were brought up, that weren't brought up contract negotiations. Now, me, I try to be a rule follower. Sometimes I really don't like the rules. And right now, I really don't like the rule where the mayor is designated to do our negotiations. I really don't like that because there's a trust factor there. Commissioner Piercy's dead right. And separating those two is hard. But that's something I'm going to do. Now, I want to work with Waste Management. I've told them that specifically. But if I had my way, the chairman of the commission would be the one doing the negotiating with other people that he might name with agreement with our county attorney. But my understanding is, by state law, which our mayor seems to think is no big deal, that he has to be in on the negotiation. I don't know what he's going to offer for sure, if he is going to offer something, but I'm going to amend whatever it is. If it doesn't, add either him or somebody else off this committee serving to work on a contract negotiation.
My apologies for putting you on the spot. Okay, that has nothing to do with what you were about to say, but I just wanted to, if I could, stop the process right there because of a pending motion that I know would be in direct conflict with discussing the contract today.
So a clarification, I think, is in order. What I was asking Rob to do was go over the current contract. Certainly, I think it's accurate to presume any negotiations in this format would be highly inappropriate. That goes without saying. What I was asking Rob to do, and for the record, was to review the contract rate and terms. That's what I was asking him to do for a starting point for discussion, so the committee members could then feel free to ask whatever questions they felt were appropriate. That is all.
Okay.
And I do care deeply about state law. Thank you, Chairman P. So does anybody have any questions? Yes, Commissioner Gooch.
And I think, you may talk with the contract, but I think one of the biggest things that we want to know, and I know that y'all have been involved in this process for quite some time, and I can just imagine that there's some fatigue that you want to go ahead and cut the deal. But if there was an offer to go back and renegotiate some aspects of the contract, whether it be that y'all can see to something or you don't, but just the idea to sit down for X number of weeks, looking over a few things, would that be something you're willing to do?
Yeah, we're open to that.
Without walking away. I think that's the biggest question that we want to know, and I think they've answered it.
Any other questions?
I feel like it's more of a further negotiation than a renegotiation.
Exactly.
Well, that's a good way to put it.
Because I don't
You
see
got
us
to come up
going-
with something good.
Well, and to Commissioner Johnson's credit, the Purchasing Act says quite clearly, our private act says that we can accept all or any part of a contract, and that is an accurate statement. So thank you. Any other, I want to make sure before we get to the motion, with any other questions? Seeing none, Chairman Phillips, you have the floor.
Thank you. I feel like there needs to be some clarification as to how we got here to where we are today. And let me just kind of back up and say that an RFP was released last year. The RFP, the bids came back, the bids were opened, a contract was signed outside of the process that is required by state law. When we realized that that was an error, we backed up. So the RFP and the contract was presented a month ago to this committee, and the committee voted down the process because of issues, that a lot of them were transparency, those type of things. So the contract was voted down by purchasing. That was the end of it. We got into our full commission meeting last month, and the commission meeting, at our commission meeting, there was a motion made to ask the purchasing committee to reconsider. That was their motion, to reconsider. I voted against that motion, but it passed by a fairly large size, enough to say that it deserved to be reconsidered. That's where this commissioner took on an extremely open mind. What was in the past was in the past. To take a look at it means that we're going to take a fresh look at this process. Not our minds already made up, but take a fresh look at this process. So, the purchasing committee revisited it and asked to take the two bids that came in, or the two envelopes that came in. One of them was a non-bid, the other one was waste management, and we decided to take that under advisement and send it to the committee process for full vetting. That happened. That happened at Public Works. Public Works voted not to reject the contract, but the wording, Nick, help me if I'm wrong.
It was a 3-3 vote on whether they would recommend approval of the contract.
And the same thing happened at Budget 2 nights later last Thursday. And I think that vote was identical. The motion was identical, but it was a 5-2 vote. So the points that were brought up in both of those committees, with Public Works and with Budget, have been discussed. And what some of us would like to see, and I know it's not unanimous, and I know that if you're voting the way that you think is right, no matter what that vote is, it's not a wrong vote. But I'm thinking that if we go into this thing with an open mind, and if the process would have been followed the way that it should have been to start with, this is where we would be. We would be right here, further negotiating that contract. And that's my motion tonight. Let me see if I can read this thing.
Yeah, can you pare some of that down for the minutes?
Here's the motion.
Thank you.
After feedback from Public Works and Budget, I move that Mayor Carr, in consultation with our finance director, Michael Smith, and our county attorney, Nick Christensen, negotiate the following items on behalf of Rutherford County and present to us the outcome of those negotiations at a future, maybe the next, purchasing committee meeting for review and decision. And those items are, they fit in, and it looks like 5 different categories: start date, start rate, start tonnage, clarification of the airspace, and new technology. Just to further comment on what we mean by start date, there's all of these dates that are out there, and I'm concerned, we're concerned, some of us are concerned that we can't meet those start dates. And I'm also concerned about starting up full blast on day 1. And I'd like to see at least us talk about a soft start date. That means a break-in period, whether it's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months. A soft starting period to where we're not fully liable for $50,000. We want a training period, we want a break-in period, and that's the type of, one of the things that we want to begin to negotiate. The other is the full-time opening, and as we build our business, we would like to also see some consideration for the tonnage requirements and the dollar requirement for a number of months, or for a period of time. That's what we want to talk about. Whether you agree with them or not, that's what negotiations are for, okay? But those are the type of things that came up in the committee process. And we want to clarify the airspace because there was some question amongst some of our commissioners last week that it was unclear. I think our attorney has a good handle on that, and I don't know that the language needs to be changed other than make a clarification as to what the 20 years really means. And another thing deals with new technology. What if, over the 20-year period of time, there's new technology that's development? You know that it happens. We know that it happens. What if we get into phase 2, phase 3, and we do a full-blown recycling program that affects the truck rates or the truck numbers that we need? We want to be able to talk to you guys about how that's affecting our cost and your cost as well. So those are some of the things that we want to open up. Start date, start rate, start tonnage, clarify airspace, and new technology. And those are a few of the things that we want to talk about. It doesn't mean that we're demanding, but those are things that we think we want to talk about. And if the process would have flowed the way it would, we would be right here where we are today talking about this process, okay? That's my motion.
That's a proper motion. Do we have a second?
Jim, I'd like to ask if you would add to your motion instead of doing a whole new thing. Just add to the motion that the county commission chairman have a seat at the table. I think that's what Commissioner P was requesting.
So let me, if I could add to that, Commissioner Johnson, I think that's an outstanding idea, and I was going to request that a committee member make that request. I want to ask Nick though. Nick, according to our private act, is there any issue with adding the chairman of the commission to that negotiating list? Is there an issue within the private act for us to do that?
A few points there that come to mind. Private Act designates county mayor as the purchasing agent for the county, and he is instructed under the Private Act to act under the direction of this committee. So he has a duty and an obligation to act under the direction of the committee, not one particular committee member. So as I've heard the motion relayed tonight and the points raised by Commissioner Phillips, the mayor has a duty and an obligation as acting under the direction of this committee to take those points to Waste Management and attempt negotiation with them on those points. He also included myself as part of that and the finance director as part of that. And my understanding is that we have not typically in the past assigned an additional member of the purchasing committee to tag along with those negotiations. So I think I would be hesitant to establish that precedent now, considering it's not afforded as a avenue within our private act. Again, it designates the county mayor as the purchasing agent. There's also a potential for, if we have two members of this committee that are deliberating outside of a public meeting, there could be allegations that there are violations of the Open Meetings Act. That's not occurred, to my knowledge. I'm just saying that when you have multiple members of a particular committee, that could be an issue. So at least what I've heard tonight, if the motion remains as is, I can guarantee, and I won't speak for Michael, but I think I actually will speak for Michael, that the points that Commissioner Phillips has relayed will be thought through, and I assume Mayor Carr will oblige in his duty to include us as well in taking these back to Waste Management and coming up to see if there'll be an agreement to change some of the language in the contract. I'm also happy to keep Commissioner Phillips apprised of those discussions so that he understands the current status of them as they occur.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Discussion.
Well, my amendment would would be to replace Joe Carr's name with Chairman Phillips to do the negotiations. However, like I said, I tend to try to follow state law where I can. So, and I do. So I'm not going to offer that, but I'll support having him on the negotiating team. Now, if he's not, maybe you can explain the way this notion is. You don't have my vote, and you won't get my vote. So you want to explain? Is he going to be part of the negotiating team?
Like I said, I don't think we've ever done that before, and I'm not so certain that having two members of a committee that is a open body like this, deliberating outside of a meeting together, could run into some issues. So what I think could be a workaround, not a workaround, but a way to facilitate this committee moving forward on this deal is I'm happy to be a conduit for Commissioner Phillips to keep him apprised, and certainly can relay any input that he has to Waste Management to the extent needed on the issue.
I'll make another point to that. The state laws that I'm aware of are talking about commissioner to commissioner, not commissioner to the mayor. We can go talk one-on-one to the mayor and other officials without other commissioners there by state law.
Understand.
To me, this is the same thing.
The difference here, and again, some of this, everybody might just have to wait until the court decides in case we get there, because we don't have opinions on this particular makeup. But the difference here is the mayor is a voting member of this committee, the way I understand it. So unlike many, if not all the other committees where he's simply an ex officio non-voting member, in this particular circumstance, he is a voting member. And so his vote, the fact that he has a vote, has an influence on the deliberations and the decisions to be made. That's what I think might be the difference.
Well, my understanding to his second, or to his initiative and agreement was to add Chairman Phillips to the negotiating team. Is that not what the motion is? Maybe I misunderstood it.
Did you add that?
The motion was for Mayor Carr, Nick Christensen, and Michael Smith.
I thought you added that
Well,
when you said second.
I asked for him to add it, but it wasn't done.
Okay, I understand.
Commissioner Gooch.
I think that if the county attorney is correct, that if another commissioner was on there negotiating, that could just possibly be another wrench that could be thrown into this, and a suit, and having to start the process all over again. So I respect the motion as it's been mentioned for the three, and then the county attorney can relay information to the chairman as he sees fit. I just don't want anything else, any other hiccups to get involved. And I see that, based upon what Nick is saying, that could happen if we have another commissioner on this committee being in with the negotiations. So that's just my thoughts on it.
I see that we already have a problem, because based on that analogy, we've all been talking to the mayor. So we've been breaking that law all along. Everybody knows we've all admitted at one time or another that yes, we said this or we said that. So we know we're already to that point.
This is negotiating.
Well, it's not only negotiating, the way I understood it, is he's considered now, we're understanding, the mayor is considered, because he votes, he's considered a part of this committee. And we can't have two committee members, whoever they are, on the negotiating committee, because it's not out in the open. That's what I'm understanding. You didn't say that.
I will say that this has been thoroughly discussed publicly, and that is often the cure for this sort of thing. I'm simply just relaying a possible issue. So take that for what it is. This has been, at this point, for the last month, talked about endlessly in public, and so if there are any issues, they have been remedied, in my opinion, and cured. I'm simply just, now that we're into the nitty-gritty of trying to finalize the deal and see if we can get it over the finish line, I'm trying to be as thoughtful as I can of potential issues.
The reason I wanted our county commission chairman in was because he had all the good input, and I wanted to make sure that he would be there to, because I know things get misunderstood, and not that it's intentional, but things do get misunderstood by all of us at times. And if Commissioner Phillips was there, he could just keep that in line. You know, well, no, that's not what I said. This is what I meant. And it wasn't to be there to bully or overrule our county mayor. And I understand he's the purchasing agent, and rightfully so, because that's the law. There was no.
If I can interject, a managed expectation here a little bit. I can say when Nick and Eric were doing 95% of the negotiation, talking to the waste management attorneys, that's where the bulk of the time was spent, was in the language of the contract. I can say that I was consulted occasionally, certainly not frequently, because it had to do with the legal language that was necessary for the contract, in the contract, to protect the county in the best place possible. I will say that the solution that Nick has come up with, where he will communicate with Chairman Phillips and myself, it's not like Commissioner Johnson, we're all sitting at a table and we're pounding this out in a 2 or 3 hour period. Nick, help me out here, but it's a lot of it's phone calls and emails, and to be honest with you, I'm not a part of that. I'm not even copied on the emails. I get a briefing like, what do you think about this, Mayor? And that is, Jeff, that's typically how it's going to go. You're not going to sit at a table and just bang this out over a period of a couple of 3 hours. It's a lot of back and forth, phone calls and emails, and then I'll get a briefing. What do you want to do now? And what direction you want to go in, Jeff? You're given choices. Does that make sense?
I've been there and done that.
Right, so you know what I'm talking about.
I'll be happy to be on that negotiating team if that's what this committee wants me to do. But I have 100% confidence and trust in Michael Smith and in Nick Christensen to see that what we've asked to happen happens. So,
and that is what will, and that's how this transactionally transpires. Just so you know.
Good. Well, I want to make an amendment to add Chairman Phillips.
I'll second that for discussion, because I've been in that situation where I made a motion and did not get a second, and I think it's sort of a slap in the face if you have something else to say and you don't get to say it because you didn't get the second. So I vowed to myself that I would never let that happen again, so I second for discussion.
To clarify the motion, you're amending the motion to include specifically Chairman Phillips as part of that formal negotiating team. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And we got a second. Do we have any discussion on the amendment to the motion?
Just that,
Commissioner Gooch.
just that it, with all due respect, Robert knows I respect him.
It's my favorite commissioner, I'm telling you guys.
The amendment is against the advice of our county attorney. I just want to make that clear.
Well, I want to make something clear since you made that clear. What the mayor did was wrong as far as signing the contract. Open bids that were supposed to be opened here. Didn't bring it back to this committee. And I think the word is we got a finding. Is that correct, attorney?
I'm not sure.
Or we may get a finding. Okay. We may get a finding if we do this. But it's no big deal, according to the mayor. Now, I don't think it's a problem if that's the case, if it's just a finding. I mean, it's evidently not a big deal for it to be the other way.
Commissioner Johnson, you're recognized, but I'm going to speak in just a second unless
Yeah,
you're going to.
Just clarification on one thing, Robert.
Yes.
Commissioner. You said the RFP, well, you said that was one thing that was wrong, that this was opened in the office. The RFP did state, that my understanding, that that's what would happen. It would open in the office, they would receive the bids, open them in the office, the mayor would take them under advisement at that time, and the office door was open per the regulations. So that part is
And I don't,
incorrect, but
I'll be public here, I don't blame the mayor for that. He was following some instructions that he's
Right.
got that were incorrect and against our purchasing policy. Our purchasing policy specifically says anything that's brought to us, to purchasing, has to be unsealed and open in front of us on the date and time advertised. And that didn't happen, okay? And that wasn't his fault, that part. Now,
So-
the other part is,
We need to get our discussion back on the amendment.
Well, he
We're
asked
off-
a question.
I understand, but it's off the amendment. We're going to get back on order on the amendment. Do we have any discussion regarding the amendment to the motion made by Chairman P. and seconded by Commissioner Johnson? Seeing none, we're voting on the amendment to add formally Chairman Phillips to the negotiating team. Carla, call the roll, please.
Strike one.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips.
Abstain.
Commissioner P.
yes.
Commissioner Boyd.
Yes.
Commissioner McAdoo.
No.
Commissioner Gooch.
No.
Chairman Carr.
Abstain.
Three yes. Or 1, 2, 3 yes. 2 no's. 2 abstain.
Nick, give me the ruling on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a break and count it up, so I don't get it wrong.
A point of order, if I may.
Please.
For a motion to pass, you need a majority of the votes to be yes.
That's my
In
understanding.
this
I think
case, the
that's what-
majority of the votes is not yes.
That's correct, and so we're going to get a ruling from the attorney.
What is getting late? It's getting late.
Is it all right if I step away?
I'll be close.
Tom had to say at the podium the other night.
Yes, he did.
It's Tom's fault.
The way I count it,
it's not.
the way I count it is that the motion fails. It was 3 yes, 2 no's, and 2 abstentions, and for purposes of counting, the abstentions are no's.
So the motion, the amendment fails. We're back on the original motion, which is Chairman Phillips' motion. Chairman Phillips, I recognize.
If I could, is there an opportunity, like we announced at the full commission, to anyone like to change their vote, or is that a possibility for us to do that right now?
You can do a motion to reconsider your vote.
Motion to reconsider.
We have a motion to
Hold on a
reconsider.
second, everybody. I gotta look something up.
My second.
My thought process as Nick is looking at this is that I want to do what this commission and this committee wants me to do.
I'm gonna tell on myself. I didn't vote the way I meant to. For that second, it slipped my mind that it was on the amendment. It was, yes, it was on the amendment, but my intentions were to put it on through. like I said, the amendment part slipped my mind at the moment, and we didn't have that section where do you want to change your vote, so I had to stick with it. And I'm still stuck with it.
Commissioner Phillips, did you vote?
He abstained.
You abstained. So a motion to reconsider would need to be somebody that voted on the prevailing side of the last vote.
Motion to reconsider.
And how did you vote, Commissioner Johnson? You voted no?
Voted yes.
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 So you did not, you weren't on the prevailing side because the motion
sorry.
failed.
If
Who
I was-
voted no?
You said that an abstain would be no, right?
For purposes of counting a vote of the majority, it is counted as a no, but it's not, it wasn't a no, just because you abstained. I can go, we can break again, I can go look at that.
No. Let's
Happy
just-
to.
Let's just move on.
We have the Chairman Phillips motion in front of us.
It's inappropriate.
I'm sorry?
It's not a proper motion, according to Nick.
No, your motion isn't. We're back to the original motion that we had like 2 hours ago. I'm talking about your original motion about the negotiating team.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. That was seconded by Chairman Johnson, I believe.
Let me just add, if I could,
Please.
to this motion. The reason, I'll go back to my roots. And in the business world, when something was introduced, the question that we always ask ourselves is, let's go to the end in mind. What's the end in mind? Where do we want to go with this transfer station? What does that look like? And to me, these negotiations will get us to the end quicker by having a plan to, when that station is built, to operate that station. So what's the end in mind? And that's clear in my mind that if we don't do anything, we've got a transfer station out there that's just a building. And I think that we've got a company that wants to do business with us, and we've got a company that's bid and negotiated for a number of months. We've got a commission that says these are things that we want to renegotiate in the contract, and that's where we are. So the end in mind is for us to have a transfer station and to operate that transfer station, and that's the picture that I'm looking at. So I appreciate you considering the motion, and I'm just looking for what's in the long-term best interest of the county. And Commissioner Piercy, we've talked about this many times. The personalities have nothing to do with the decisions that I'm making right now. Nothing.
I believe.
I thought he was in bed already.
Taking it out.
We have a motion. I think you were the second, Chairman Johnson, is that correct?
And please clarify it too.
You want to read the whole motion?
Well, the
What we're voting
gist of it.
I can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
It won't take but 10, 15 minutes. After feedback from Public Works and Budget, I move that Mayor Carr, in consultation with Michael Smith and Nick Christensen, negotiate the following contract items on behalf of Rutherford County and present us, which is the purchasing committee, the outcome of those negotiations at our next or future purchasing meeting for our review and decision. And those points are start dates, start rates, start tonnage, clarify the airspace concerns, and to talk about language in the contract that would deal with new technology.
Just to clarify this, we're not talking about voting on the contract.
We're opening up negotiations.
We're opening up negotiations, Mr. Boyd, yes. We're opening up negotiation. Once the negotiations are complete, then it has to come back here for ratification, okay?
And it may be a special call.
Or rejection.
Yes, it will. It may be a special call meeting, so. Any further discussion?
Yes. I voted to build this transfer station. I did not want to do it at this time, but the reason I did is so we could consolidate the trash we're getting from the convenience centers, put them in a large truck and run them up the hill without having to run 3 trucks up the hill, only 1. Because we've had a backlog and a big backlog and a lot of trouble with that. That's why I voted for it now. I had planned on voting for it in the future. I didn't feel like it was necessary to do it at that time, but I saw the need for a transfer station. I don't have a problem with the transfer station. That's something we need somewhere along the line. We just got it before I was ready to bite the bullet and start paying for it out of our budget already. So I'm not against the transfer station. Voted for it, done it. I'm also not against negotiating. What I'm having a problem with is who's tasked with doing that negotiation. And there's a trust factor there, and Joe, you know that.
Well, you've said it many times.
Well, I just want to make sure
I don't
everybody
think
knows
there's
it's crystal
misunderstanding.
clear.
Please continue.
Anyway, I'm very happy to be in negotiations with Waste Management. I don't have a problem with that. I've got a problem with the process. The process was not followed. And like I said, I try to be a rule follower. And that's why you're going to see a no on this. Not because I don't think Waste Management's a good group of people to work with, but because we're not allowed to have a representative that I know is going to take care of us in these negotiations.
Any other questions or comments before we vote?
I just like to say, even though it may not have sounded like it tonight because of my questions or comments, but I have confidence in our county attorney. And I have confidence in our other employees, our finance director, our mayor's assistant. I do have confidence in these people. And at times I have confidence in you, Joe. Not all the time. And you know, I've said that, but I trust that the negotiations will go the right way to serve the better interest of this county, and that's what we're after. We have people that are well qualified in these positions, and my trust is there. That's just my point of view on it.
I guess something I want to say. I think renegotiating is the right way to go. But further negotiation is the right way to go. But I also have faith in our committee process. And if we're going to follow our committee process, this went to Public Works and got a negative recommendation. It went to Budget, got a negative recommendation. And I'm going to follow the committee process. And with my vote.
If I could add to that, Commissioner Boyd, I think that it's been determined or shown that the members of those committees voted against the contract because of a few things that was in the contract and they wanted to be further negotiated, not that they was against the contract as a whole. And this gives us the opportunity to honor them, to send the contract back for further negotiations. I don't think there was, I'm not speaking for them, but I don't see that they voted totally against everything in the contract. And the committee, that's the committee process worked. Now it's back to here with instructions to further negotiate.
The committee process did work. It came back to us with negative recommendations. Just like it should have been, the bid should have been opened here. I mean, there's a whole lot that went wrong with this whole deal. Let's make it right.
No one's
Let's
doubting,
make it right.
No one's
Let's make it
doubting
right.
that, but this is making it right. Call for the vote, Mr. Chair.
We have been at this over 3 hours. I think we're tired. I know I
Call
am.
for the question.
We have a call for the question. Carla, call the roll, please.
Yes, sir.
The yes vote is for the motion as proposed by Chairman Phillips.
Commissioner Johnson?
Aye.
Commissioner Phillips?
Yes.
Commissioner Pease?
No.
Commissioner Boyd?
No.
Commissioner McAdoo?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Chairman Carr?
Yes. Motion passes.
5-2.
Any other business?
I want to make one statement. I asked Carla when we were opening the bids a while ago to hold up the bids, show them to me. From now on, I'd like to see our bids and verify they're unopened whenever they're brought in front of this committee and I'm here. And I'm not saying that you are tampering with anything. You're not. I know that specifically, but I want it publicly shown that these things are still sealed when they come in front of this committee.
I think that's an outstanding idea. Any other business for the committee? Our next committee meeting is October 15th, 2024, unless there is a special called meeting for the purposes of this or any other item. We stand adjourned.
I need y'all to